Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, December 10th, 2025. This is the regular board meeting for the School District of Waukesha Board of Education. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mrs. Ettinger, can you take the roll call, please?
Eric Brooks.
Here.
Natalie Gren.
Here.
Thomas Harlan.
Here.
Betty Koenig.
Here.
Carrie Kozlowski.
Here.
Diane Voigt.
Here.
David Wad.
Here.
Anthony Zenobia.
Here.
Kelly Piasek.
Here. And Mrs. Ettinger, can you please verify that the meeting has been properly posted?
Yes, it has.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we are going to jump right in tonight with bright lights, and Dr. Siebert will introduce that topic, and we'll get us started. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Piasek. So tonight, we are fortunate to have Mr. Kyle Lemieux with us, who is going to talk with the board about our state qualifiers. Earlier tonight, downstairs, we had our fall athletic and activities reception. Many of you joined us for that, and that's greatly appreciated. We have some very successful student athletes, both in the pool as well as on the golf course and in the classroom. So, Mr. Lemieux, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about those great kids, and we appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for great. And we appreciate the time and recognition. I often tell people in different orientations, presentations, I think being a high school student today is tougher than it's ever been. And then you take into account someone who takes on the challenge of participation in activities or athletics, and it really is impressive when they not only make their way through, but they do so with excellence. And so that's what we get to celebrate tonight. I get to represent all three of our athletic directors here tonight. So just picture a taller, better-looking Mr. Schreier would be in my place for the black shirts, and Mr. Blitzwhite is headed off to wrestling tonight, and so I am as well acting as a temporary North Star, which I take great pride in as well. So I will start with those North Stars. We celebrated some young ladies in the pool downstairs this evening, Katie and Chloe Bell, and they qualified for state in both the 200 free and 400 free relays, and it's always great to have seasons that live on. Both of their names are now on the Waukesha North record board because of those performances in the events this year. So really proud of those North Stars and their efforts in the pool. Moving to our black shirts, Mr. Schreier provided a summary of a few different state-bound groups. The first is recognizing our esports team and Coach Yep, who qualified for state in the Super Smash Bros. Last weekend with the Wisconsin High School Esports Association Fall State Championships. Sophomore Oliver Viscara is competing in the state meet in Super Smash Bros. He mains in Pokemon Trainer and competed in a field of 64 around the state. If you can follow esports lingo, you are already ahead of most. So congratulations on that. As far as the swimmers for the black shirts this year, congrats to the swim team who was crowned Woodland Conference champions, earning the first conference championship since 2018. Making a return trip to state were two South seniors, including Kenzie Machosik-Arndt and Brody Jones. Kenzie qualified for state in the 200 free and 400 free relays, and Brody swam in the 100 fly, the 200 medley relay, the 200 free relay, and the 400 relay. Kenzie is a two-time state qualifier, and Brody Jones was a four-time state qualifier for Waukesha South. So very impressive. And then lastly, I would kick it over to our Wolverine group before we finish off with a co-op crew. With the Wolverines, a few groups to celebrate that we're super proud of. First is our one-act play group led by Mr. Nathan Barish. And so the cast and crew of WIT swept all the awards at the WISDAA State One Act Contest at UW-Stevens Point. Wes was recognized with outstanding awards for outstanding achievement in technical theater and directing, and received outstanding ensemble. Stage Schmidt, Ireland Rafferty-Stumpf, and Emma Fireday received the contest award Outstanding Actress, and Kieran Ploutz received the award for Outstanding Actor. West also earned the top award, the Critics' Choice Award, for an incredible 15th year in a row. So incredible accomplishment, and again, Mr. Nathan Barish is doing wonderful things with that group. Our girls cross-country team made their way to the state meet this year, and we want to recognize both the varsity and JV from that program placed second at the Classic 8 meet. Kat Nelson, Ava Dusnap, and Keelan Thompson ran to first team honors. The team captured the Arrowhead WA Division I sectional championship, including our freshman Kat Nelson winning the individual sectional championship during her run. At state, 5 girls ran career bests and 2 others ran season bests as they made their way off to the state meet. And at state, a 13th place finish, and with such a young roster, incredible things to come. So we're very proud of each and every one of those young ladies. And then in the pool for the Wolverines, we had 3 swimmers qualify for state, Madeline Deedy, as well as Evie Dixon and Lainey Warner. We co-op with Catholic Memorial during our fall with the girls swim in the pool. And Coach Melanie Borland had this to say, that they had a strong and memorable season, 3rd place at conference, 2nd at sectionals, and just incredible versatility and growth by all of her girls. She was also really proud of our girls this year because not only did they go to state, but we did one of the firsts where we had an educator recognition night, and over 20 of our West educators came and were honored during one of our first home meets and being able to stand side by side with our student athletes. So we were really excited for that. So with that, I am going to step aside and introduce a few gentlemen here. I have in the black Mr. Dan Wimmer, who serves as our assistant coach for our Waukesha Girls Golf Co-op, and I'll invite to the podium Mr. Adam McDonald, who serves as our head coach of our Waukesha Girls Golf Co-op.
Thanks for having us tonight. We had 5 girls recognized for all their accomplishments on the golf course. Reagan Piasek from Waukesha North, Kenzie Wagner from Waukesha North, Claire Gerton from Waukesha North, Emma Bickler from Waukesha West, and Vivi Ruby from Waukesha West. We won the Woodland Conference Championship, which was our first conference championship since 2006. We've won our first regional since 2006. We tied for first at sectionals and qualified for the state tournament for the first time since 2007. When did I have you as a student, Coach Wimmer? It might have been that long ago, which was awesome. We finished 7th at the state tournament, and we had lots of individual accomplishments after that as well. Reagan, Kenzie, and Vivi were named first team all-conference. Emma and Claire were named second team all-conference. Reagan was named player of the year in the Woodland. All 5 girls were also named academic all-state. Reagan was also named second team all-state. And Vivi and Kenzie were also named honorable mention all-state. So a lot to be proud of for the girls golf team. Thank you.
Before they run away, I will make one quick mention because I knew he wouldn't say it himself. Because of those amazing accomplishments and more, Coach Adam McDonald was also named the Division I Wisconsin State Coach of the Year. Thank you for your support as always. Look forward to coming back with some winter crew soon.
Congratulations. Okay. Thank you. We have another really exciting topic for tonight or for our recognitions. We have the 2025 School District of Waukesha Business Partner Awards, and so I'll turn it back to Dr. Siebert to help me present those.
All right, thank you, Dr. Piasek. So this is the 3rd year in a row that we have recognized local businesses who are tremendous partners of the School District of Waukesha, a lot of them through our School to Work type programs, but not exclusive to that. And so we have recognized 10 in the past 2 years, and we're excited to recognize another 5 here this evening, 3 of who are with us. So we're going to start tonight with Griffin Ford. And Ben is here. Ben and his team at Griffin Ford go out of their way to ensure our labs, teachers, and Ben, if you're here, you'd please come up to the podium. We'd love to have you say a few words after I say nice things about you. There you are, guys. Well, here are our gentlemen from Griffin Ford. So I'll start over. Ben and his team at Griffin Ford go out of their way to ensure our labs, teachers, and students have what they need to learn about the automotive industry and its career paths. Griffin hires many of our student youth apprentices as auto technicians and other support staff. Ben's team checks in on our staff, responding to our needs with support, guest speakers, donations, and most importantly, time. They also work with our students as part of the Adam Technicians of Tomorrow competition to practice debugging a car, working through shop procedures, and applying what they have learned in their classes to real-world situations. So please join me in congratulating Ben Stewart and Griffin Ford.
It wouldn't be possible without your guys' the teachers and the school board helping us get our students in the automotive and actually learning the automotive systems. And we're thankful for them. We couldn't do it with the workforce. Right now I have 8 Waukesha students that are graduated, now working for me. I'm thankful for their workforce. I am thankful for you guys, and hopefully we can have many more years with you guys.
Absolutely. Well, stay still there, gentlemen. So Dr. Piasek is going to come present you with our SDW Business Partner Award for 2025, and we're very grateful for your partnership. All right. Congratulations. Thank you, guys. Next, we are going to recognize Chef Pam Dennis of Chef Pam's Kitchen. So Chef Pam, I believe you are here along with your husband and your daughter. Come on up to the podium. That's wonderful. So Chef Pam opens her business to our culinary students and teachers for a hands-on field trip that allows students to apply what they have been learning in an industry-level kitchen. She reinforces the skills needed to work in the industry, shares lessons she has learned along the way, and imparts her wisdom that can be seen in her business success. In addition, Chef Pam and her husband attended our embedded agriculture events, offering to assist us further when the time comes. So thank you so much, Chef Pam, for your partnership, and we are grateful to recognize you, your husband, in Chef Pam's Kitchen.
Thank you so much for the award. It is an honor. We are so excited to be a part of the community here in Waukesha and on Main Street for the last 8 years now. And we started in a small space, just 950 square feet, and relocated 2 doors down. And at that time, I started to go to a lot of the career days at the schools and just had a blast. One of them I had to fight with Mayor Riley for, he was in my room and I needed the plug because I was going to do some cooking demos. And so we had to negotiate him moving to a different room. But it's just such a joy to see the kids and how excited they are about cooking and culinary. And the more we can teach them at those young ages in the elementary school, that's exciting for me to see. And then I've also been at the high schools as well and sharing my love for cooking with the high school students too. So I appreciate the invitations and thank you for being a part of this.
Great. Well, thank you, Chef Pam. Thank you, Brian, for being with us.
Thank you.
All right, and our final in-person award this evening goes to Meyer, and we have Julie Meyer from Meyer Stores with us here this evening. So I'll invite her up to the table. And I believe Carrie, right, the store director, is along. So,
Carrie was sick today.
Oh.
We have our assistant store director, Vicki Wilson, with me.
oh, well, welcome, Vicki. So let me say some nice things about you, Julie. You are the head of HR for Meyer on Sunset here in Waukesha. And over the years, Julie has worked with numerous students from South and West high schools and helped them obtain employment. As part of her work, Julie leads the training process, all while helping them to develop and advance in their jobs and in life. We thank Julie for her commitment in employing students from the Waukesha School to Work programs and look forward to your continued partnership. So congratulations, Julie.
Yes, I just want to say thank you on behalf of myself and the team at the Meyer store. Meyer is really focused on the communities we serve and really focused on education. So what better way than to work with a school district where not only myself, Vicky's family has attended, but our current students as well. So it's a really great partnership that we have, and I'm really glad we're able to do it. So thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We do have two other awards, and I will just talk about who we're awarding them to, and then Molly Habenschild, who is our Career and Technical Education Coordinator, and myself will go to these businesses and present their awards to them in person. The first is Hobby Lobby. And Bill Carwick. Bill actually closes on Wednesday nights, and it is the holiday season, so he was not able to be with us. But we're recognizing Hobby Lobby as they have been a consistent partner for our retail sales and marketing students in the Youth Apprenticeship Program. Bill and his team understand the importance of hiring high school students as part of a work-based learning program. In fact, Bill has been participating in this type of program for a number of years as he hired Molly 16 years ago at Hobby Lobby for her first job. He and his team exhibit patience in mentoring youth. They troubleshoot issues that may arise, and they work with our students and teachers to be successful in their future. So we want to recognize Hobby Lobby and Bill, and we'll get out to Hobby Lobby to present the award. And then, yes. Our other recipient this year is the Badger Health Center and Dr. Jocelyn Hallen. So Dr. Hallen is another longtime supporter of students in the health science areas, helping and hiring a number of youth apprentices each year. Healthcare can be a challenging industry to get an inside look in for a student. While students are not directly treating patients, these interns are the first and last person interacting with them along the way. They get experience in interacting with patients, medical records, insurance, billing, setting appointments, and managing the day-to-day operations of the clinic, all thanks to their time with Dr. Holland and the Badger Health Center. So Molly and I will also go to the Badger Health Center, talk with Dr. Holland, and then appoint her with her award. So very exciting. So we'll continue to do these. Normally, we've been doing these in October. We just got a little delayed this year, but we'll be back next fall with more recipients, and we now are up to 15, and I don't think we're even scratching the surface in terms of the number of businesses and individuals that work with us here in the School District of Waukesha, are so supportive of our career and technical education programming. And really on the awards, we're talking about thank you for supporting the future workforce of the Waukesha community, because that's exactly what they're doing, and we're grateful for that. So thank you. That wraps that up.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Siebert. Thank you to everyone. All right, we do not have student representatives reporting tonight, so we're going to move right into our citizen speakers. So we are now at the section of our meeting where there's an opportunity for citizens to speak. We have 12 speakers tonight. Therefore, each individual will be limited to 3 minutes. We will signal you at 2.5 minutes to begin to wrap up comments. We expect all speakers to honor our time limit, refrain from using any inappropriate language, and to be respectful in their comments. Speakers who do not meet these expectations may be prohibited from speaking at future board or committee meetings. Speakers are here to address the board, not the audience. The school board does not endorse any comments made by members of the community here tonight. We'd like to remind our community members of the impact of their words on others and that our children are watching. We commit to communicating with you in respectful and productive ways and ask that you do the same. We also expect that the audience will be respectful of the speaker and of the board and refrain from responding with verbal comments, cheering, applause, or other behavior that will detract from the meeting. Please note that no obstructions can be created between the board and the audience. Visual aids cannot be used, and the area behind the speaker and the podium should be clear during public comment. Also, in order to respect our speakers and meeting participants, please silence your cell phones. Our first speaker this evening is Carrie Kumrell, followed by Amber Kraus.
My name's Carrie Kumrell-Mijas, and I've taught at Horning Middle School for 27 years. Many of my colleagues have dedicated decades of their lives to this building, to our students, and to the community. That kind of commitment doesn't happen by accident. It happens because Horning is a place worth investing in, and our kids are worth investing in. I want to be very clear. The students who need the most stability will now have the least. Horning serves a uniquely vulnerable population, students from low-income families, bilingual families, and high special education numbers. These are students who already navigate more transitions, more uncertainty, and more barriers than most. And now, with the board's decision, they're being asked to shoulder yet another major disruption. We keep hearing the phrase, kids are resilient, but schools should not be a place where students have to be resilient. It should be their anchor, safe, secure, stable. Instead, some of the district students will change schools 3 times in just a few years because of building closures. Anyone who understands trauma-informed care knows how deeply harmful that is. The number of school transitions sits at the very top of the list of things we should avoid, and yet here we are, ignoring that research. We've also been told in no uncertain terms that Horning is a substandard building. We are continuously treated like the black sheep of the district, but let's remember how we got here. Years ago, the district redrew boundaries and reshaped our school's population without supplying the resources necessary to support the new demographics. The system created the challenges it's now blaming Horning for. But here is what isn't substandard: our recent test scores and our behavior data, some of the strongest we've seen. Our kids and staff have worked incredibly hard to get those results. Our building culture isn't substandard either. Our admin team isn't substandard. And if it's really the physical building that's so inadequate, according to the interview backtrack by Dr. Siebert, I have to ask, why are you moving STEM into a physically substandard building? That contradiction has yet to be explained. What also has never been explained is the near total lack of communication. My email about this the day after you voted went unanswered, except for Mrs. Voigt. Families are still confused. Many don't even know that this is happening. That is the district's responsibility. It is unacceptable that the first time Horning was publicly named as closing was the night of the vote. We had no time to process or prepare because we did not know. And a 10-minute message from Superintendent Siebert the next morning does not count as transparency.
30
It was damage
seconds.
control. This entire process has left our community feeling dismissed and misled. Let me say this: staff come to Horning and they stay. Some even leave the district and eventually return. We love our students, we love our families, we love the community that has been built over decades in that building. These are not the same kids we taught 20 years ago. The world is different. You have put more weight on these kids now with no notice and no plan for how to support them through another transition. Horning deserves better.
The next speaker is Amber Kraus, followed by Jonathan Busker.
I'm here today to respectfully ask that the implementation of the upcoming school closures and consolidations be delayed from the 26-27 school year to the 27-28 school year. This is not about opposing change. It's about ensuring that the changes are done thoughtfully, giving everyone ample time to prepare, and with minimal disruption to families, educators, and students. Right now, parents and staff do not have the information that they need to plan. The new school boundary maps aren't even available, yet the application window opens in just a few weeks. Families are being asked to make decisions without knowing where their children will attend school next fall. Teachers and staff are left in limbo until spring or later, which is not enough time to make life-changing career decisions. How can anyone think that this timeline is acceptable? Rushing this process risks chaos. Sports teams already struggle to find gym time at our schools. Rearranging schedules and facilities will take months of coordination. Some of our elementary athletes' practices already go until 9 p.m. in the evening. I hate to see what the schedule looks like in the future. Boy Scout and Girl Scout troops need clarity on where their members will be relocated and where future meetings will happen. Some of our troops meet right after school, but that may no longer be an option if members are now spread out over different schools. Busing has been a significant challenge in the past. New routes and staffing will require careful planning to avoid repeating those issues. And these topics are barely just scratching the surface. We have heard all summer long that you want to do this right, you want to be transparent and gather feedback. But here we are, and all trust has been lost. Where was the transparency when being asked about interest in specific schools, and then we found out through open records requests otherwise? And our feedback, none of it mattered because in the end, it was all about money. And this 18-month timeline we keep talking about, none of it matters if we don't have the key logistical details before families and staff are forced to act. If we aren't in a crisis, why the rush? So please, take the time to implement this plan that will minimize disruption and allow for thoroughness and strong execution. A 1-year delay gives everyone, parents, educators, and community organizations, the time that they truly need to prepare. Thank
30
you.
seconds.
The next speaker is Jonathan Busker, followed by Allison Novara.
I'm Jonathan Busker. I got 2 students at Banting Elementary School. I'm here to talk about the bullying and the lack of attention that the district and the principal is doing to help prevent it and keep our children safe. My son is in 5th grade. He's had 2 threats against him this year. One of them was back in October, wasn't even documented. The teacher told his mom that it was out of her control and she couldn't do anything. And according to your handbook, it states in there, if you report it to a teacher, they gotta send you to the right direction and also document it. So my biggest question is I don't know why we even have a student handbook if we can't follow the anti-bullying or the threats or any of that stuff in our schools. You know, you make a concern, this last one, right before Thanksgiving that came out, it involved a weapon, and it was directed at my son with the names. I mean, we went to the news station because we got tired of the principal lying to parents, saying it wasn't a serious matter, or they're coming back to having teachers say that it was a fake video and it wasn't even real. And that's concerning. We put these people in charge to protect our children, and they are failing our children. When the reporter was outside, filming outside of Banting, a teacher ran out to confront her to say that we were blowing this out of proportion. But you look at the schools, STEM had an incident, and so did Horning, and they both released statements. That's all I was asking for, was to let the school district, let the families know that there was a concerning threat that was made towards a student by another student inside or outside of school, but they know each other at school only, and that's where they see each other. So my biggest concern is for the safety of the students. I feel the district's failing these children, and so is the principal at Banting Elementary. And I'm here not just advocating for my kids, but also all the other students that need it. And, you know, we've been there since kindergarten with the 5th grader, and then we have another student in 1st grade, and we've never had a problem until this year. We've always got along with Mary. We've always felt like it was a good school, and, you know, we heard rumors of how they handled stuff, and we realized this year that it was true, that it's not taken seriously. The concerns, we picked up
30
documentation,
seconds.
and a lot of it was missing. We got an email last Friday from the principal stating, here's your documentation from October 17th threat that you made towards us, but it was all incorrect. It was missing information, and that's falsifying documentation by sending it over a month and a half later. And I think it's unacceptable. I hope the school board does something about this.
Thank you. The next speaker is Allison Novara, followed by Dan Presky.
I'm going to go off of what Jonathan said. My name is Allison Novara, and I am a mom of a 1st and a 5th grader at Banting Elementary School. Both of my kids have attended Banting since kindergarten. I was always the mom that bragged about how awesome Banting was. I had received calls from the principal, Mary Garcia Velez, about how awesome my oldest was doing, his acts of kindness on the playground, or the nice poem he wrote about Banting. It's the school we loved. I would hear horror stories about other kids being bullied and the administration and the principal not handling it effectively. I have not witnessed that until this year when it's now happening to my 5th grade son. As you have probably seen the news articles and the complaints that my husband and I have watched or have reported, the most recent incident that happened over Thanksgiving break, my son received a disgusting and terrifying video, 2 stick figures beating the crap out of my son. And then at the end, a picture of a movie character with a white screen mask, holding and pointing a gun. The message to follow stated POV, point of view. This was more than that any child should have to see, especially at only 10 years old. This was the incident that just put me over the edge. Police were contacted and legal actions have been taken. This bully has a history at Banting since he came to Banting the middle of last year during their 4th grade year, after being expelled from his previous school. Some of the incidents that have involved my son started with slapping him in the face last spring when my son was trying to help a friend get his football back. This year, the bully has pushed my son, took pictures of him, has harassed him, and threatened to jump him at the school trunk-or-treat event. And some of these issues have gone undocumented. He has been an issue to other kids, including staff. Recently, a vulgar with a lunch aide, cussing at her and then running from the administrators. The next day, he pushed the music teacher, resulting in only a one-day suspension. After the video was received, my son does not feel safe at school anymore. Knowing this bully is back at school in the same building, the principal and Ryan Pat have stated that this video was not a
30
serious
seconds.
threat because it didn't state that he was going to shoot up the school. If this is not a serious threat, then what is? After a threat assessment was done, this bully was able to return to Banting. Why is it fair for kids who have been there since kindergarten to feel forced out but not feel safe because they do not feel safe to attend school, nor do I feel it is safe for them to attend? How many incidents have to happen to remove a child so others can have a safe learning environment? Please make the right
Your
choice
time
to
is up.
allow others to feel safe at school and remove the child causing the issue.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dan Presky, followed by Melissa Toledo.
Good evening, thank you. I just want to address the school board and administrators. No one runs for school board or serves on one hoping to close a school. These are tough decisions, emotional decisions, decisions that hit families, traditions, childhood memories. But leadership isn't about pretending we live in the world we wish we had. It's about dealing honestly with the world we actually do have. And the reality is the reality. Our enrollment is declining. Our buildings are underutilized, and it would be irresponsible fiscally and morally to ignore the numbers and kick the problem down the road for someone else to solve. That's not how we govern. We face challenges directly, and we protect taxpayers while still protecting our kids' education. I want to commend you. I want to commend the Waukesha School Board for doing something too many leaders shy away from, and that's listening. They listen to parents, they listen to teachers, they listen to families who care deeply about their neighborhood schools. And let's be honest, they listen to the dissenters in this room as well. The truth isn't that the board ignored anyone. The truth is that some simply don't like the outcome. But leadership isn't a popularity contest. After weighing every voice and feeling the full weight of these emotions and the decisions that you were going to have to make, the board still made a decision grounded in facts, not fantasy. That takes courage. Our community deserves honesty, it deserves transparency, and it deserves a school system built for the next generation, not the last one. Consolidating schools isn't about giving up. It's about strengthening what we have. Focusing resources where they matter most, and ensuring every student in Waukesha gets the education they deserve. Yes, this is hard. You had to make a hard decision. But responsible stewardship is often hard. Strong communities don't run from reality, they rise to meet it. So tonight, I want to thank you and everyone else that's involved in this process for doing the tough job the right way, guided by data, grounded in fiscal discipline, and shaped by the voices of the people that you guys serve. Your responsible leadership builds trust and shows that you prioritize our community's future. This is what accountable leadership looks like, and it's how we secure a stronger future for Waukesha kids, families, and taxpayers. So on behalf of all of us, thank you for
30
what you've done.
seconds.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Next speaker is Melissa Toledo, followed by Madison Gonzalez.
All right, good evening again, district admin and board members. I'll dive right in, given the time. So Bethesda specific, as leaders to be responsible for acting in the best interest of our district and students, I expect you to preserve as many, if not all, Bethesda staff members. Many of you said it's not the building that matters, but it's the students and staff inside. So by your own logic, you should be keeping all the Bethesda teachers who are making Bethesda successful and can go and take that culture and success to now what will be Lowell. Dual language, you've stated repeatedly that the goal is to preserve and enhance what our district does well. Dual language is one of the programs that truly sets us apart, yet instead of preserving it, the district is splitting into 3 locations with no clear plan, which I have seen firsthand. Previously, the 4 buildings also allowed for a valuable dual language to mono ratio, and now it's unclear. Will one site be predominantly dual language? When will the families know where dual language students are going? Can you guarantee space for all the students rather than creating an additional wait list? And many see this shift as harming the dual language program rather than supporting it. And now my general concerns. I'll use the word interesting for lack of a better term at this moment. It's interesting that the administration said there was 0 interest in current buildings, yet within a week or 2 of the vote, people were touring Bethesda. It's interesting that families are expected to enroll on January 5th while district lines are still unfinished. That does not build trust. It's interesting that the district is confident it can find space for 350 dual language students displaced by closures. It's interesting that it's only now becoming clear that all families will need to re-choice in the upcoming enrollment cycle. It's interesting that many board members campaigned on parent choice, yet hundreds of families lost their option to attend a uniquely structured school like Bethesda. Also, it's interesting that deferred costs was heavily mentioned around Bethesda, but yet the $2 million deferred Lowell costs, as well as the drop-off and pickup costs that are going to come in play when you have to build that, was never mentioned. Para terminar, estoy decepcionada y necesitamos un cambio. Necesitamos un cambio para garantizar que este distrito escolar no sufra más daños y que podemos trabajar de verdad para convertirlo en un distrito sólido y atractivo que ofrezca una educación pública de calidad a todos quienes la necesitan y la desean.
30 seconds.
Precisamente por eso me postuló para ser miembro de la Junta Escolar y espero con ansia sentarme entre ustedes y trabajar con ustedes para mejorar este distrito. Gracias.
The next speaker is Madison Gonzalez, followed by Aaron Cherney.
My name is Madison Gonzalez. I'm sure most of you know me already or have spoken to me throughout the process of OOF, but I'm in a very interesting position. I have represented and spoken for my school, Bethesda, as a parent since the beginning of these plans, but tonight I come to you as a Bethesda employee who is disappointed. I could ask you a million questions about the decision that was voted on, like how you plan to protect all teachers and staff of the schools affected, or how you expect people to enroll on January 5th without finalized district lines, or why you think a lot of us parents would trust this board for displacing hundreds of students out of a program and then labeling it a dying program, or why you decided to close a school with one of the highest DPI scores and one of the highest capacities to close. But honestly, my patience has dwindled, and I don't think you're listening to us for the sake of putting together a plan that will benefit the district. I think your dependency on us parents for information and data says a lot about you as a board, and frankly, I don't think you care about what we have to say. I believe it is all for show. So instead of me wasting my time, the time that I do have to talk, I'd like to spend my time talking to my Bethesda family that I know are probably watching. We see you, and I see you. We see your passion, your dedication, your love for our children, and we see how hard you work every single day you step into our building. Since shifting my perspective from a parent to an employee in such a short amount of time, I have seen an overwhelming level of welcoming support and community at our school that I don't feel can just be replaced easily at any other building. And although a lot of our staff and teachers may feel very sad or disappointed during this decision-making, I think it's important that someone highlights the amazing people that built Bethesda and the community that it is today. You deserve to be recognized and told how loved you are for the work and commitment that you show me and our students every day. And I have no doubt that the same can be said for other schools in our district. Thank you.
Our next speaker tonight is Aaron Cherney, followed by Paul Reese.
Good evening. My name is Aaron Cherney. I've emailed you all before, and I'm here tonight because everything that has transpired with Plan E1 is absolutely unacceptable. I'm a proud graduate of Waukesha Schools, the parent of a 7th grader at Horning, and I work for the largest school district in the state of Wisconsin. I share this because I am deeply invested in public education in Waukesha and in the long-term success of our students, families, and educators. Tonight I call on the board to press pause and make a motion to reconsider implementation of Plan E1 for the 2026-27 school year. The way this plan was introduced and approved is a failure of transparency, a failure of leadership, a failure to respect the families you were elected to serve. Let's be honest about what happened. Plan E1 did not appear in any public documentation until board presentation packet was posted online for the November 12th meeting. Plan E1 emerged from the October 27th board work session. It was not presented or discussed at the October 30th parent community information session. That is not transparency. That is blindsiding the public. And perhaps the most alarming, when Fox 6 asked Dr. Siebert how much time the public had to weigh in, his answer was, none. The superintendent himself admits the public had no opportunity to engage. That should be enough for any responsible board member to hit pause. To multiply this, families are still waiting for transportation plans, boundary maps, and have no idea if their child will be able to continue in choice programming. Yet you want us to re-enroll and see how things go. These are not minor logistics. They determine childcare, commutes, work schedules, and participation in extracurricular activities. This affects daily life, and as of today, you're giving us just 26 days, 13 business days to make major, irreversible decisions about our children's education. That is downright irresponsible. With regard to choice programs, families made long-term commitments and decisions years ago to enroll in good faith. Now those commitments may be thrown out because a plan created behind closed doors didn't consider them. That is not just insulting, it breaks trust and undermines the very foundation of partnership between families and the district. Then on top of all this, the administration has openly stated that closing a high school is possibly being considered for the 29-30 school year. If that is the direction we're heading, why is it not reflected in a single plan that has been presented? How many times do you plan to uproot and disrupt the families? If you think enrollment is declining now, wait till you see a mass exodus of families and educators because they've lost all remaining trust in this process. As Plan E1 stands right now, you will disrupt 2,006 students and up to 217 educators to meet an artificial deadline that you created by withholding the plan from public until the last minute. The community deserves honesty. With Plan E1, we got none of this. So tonight I'm asking the board to do the bare minimum required of elected officials who have a duty to serve this community. Pause, reconsider, and fix it. Because the families of Waukesha will not forget how this was handled, and they are watching closely to see who has the courage to correct it.
Thank you. The next speaker is Paul Reese, followed by Elizabeth Nelson.
Excuse me, but move where? This is one of the top performing school districts in the area. It has some of the best amenities in the area. It is a great school district, and it will not remain that way if our high schools remain half empty. What we offer is amazing to our students as long as we have full classes or something's going to go. Now, that's not really why I wanted to talk tonight. I wanted to talk about censuring a board member, that Ms. Voigt has stepped out of line. And this board has censured other board members in the past. Matter of fact, it's gone further than that, and it's censured community members. I was restricted for stepping over the line from speaking here. And if this board is going to go after community members, it better apply the same standards to itself. And if someone comes up here and issues a statement, an email, speaking on behalf wrongly of this board, that has to be dealt with. That can't go on. If other members of this community aren't allowed to speak and they're censured, and previous board members have been censured, you can't turn a blind eye because someone's going to cry victim. That can't be done. You can't weaponize policies. You know, people bring up, I think, policy 2260, I think, was brought up last month, and it was weaponized. But these 22 series policies that deal largely with discrimination, they're things that aren't discussed here. Most people don't realize that these aren't board-level issues. They're not talked about. A little over a year ago, someone from Bethesda came in here complaining, a group of parents came in here complaining because someone was sexually assaulting their kid. They felt another student had sexually assaulted their child, or other children, multiple children. Now those parents sat here and then they left, and you guys didn't discuss it. Because you don't discuss those things. You can't discuss those things. How many people in here realize that this is the judge and jury? For anything that comes through, when an expulsion happens, anything that comes through, these people will be the judge and jury. They can't take sides beforehand. They can't issue opinions. They're not supposed to go to those places. And when board members begin to do that and blur those lines, they need to be censured. There's just no doubt about it. You can't have this blur going on between things. And it's important that people understand that
30
this board
seconds.
will not react to complaints. It can't, and there are good reasons for it. So anyways, thanks. Have a good Merry Christmas to you all.
Okay, the next speaker is Elizabeth Nelson, followed by Karen Fraley.
Well, you blew it. Super hard. Complete buffoonery. Your complete incompetence has been glaring through this entire process, and shocker, it's still showing. Teachers don't know if they'll have jobs come April or May. Our amazing teachers at Bethesda don't know if they're going to retire or if they're going to go to another school. District lines haven't been finalized, and enrollment is January 5th. And there's Christmas in between there. You sent out an email the day after the vote with the wrong school year cited. Let me tell you how great that was to get as a Bethesda parent to see that maybe we'd have an extra year at our school. Nope, just kidding. Wrong date. You guys have been operating shadily since this. You haven't publicly announced that all families who choice will probably have to re-choice. I've had several parents whose kids they thought were safe at schools like Meadowbrook and other ones that are now asking me, not you, coming to me and asking if their kids are going to have to re-choice into their school. And I have to go like this, much like you guys have been. They don't know if they'll be able to get into their classes because class capacity is going to be tighter than ever. They don't have any answers, and you don't have any answers, but that's probably because you don't have our core group of families doing all the heavy lifting for you anymore like we did all summer. You used us, you strung us along the last 6 months, only to slam the door in our faces. And for those of you who said kids are resilient, you didn't have to go home and break that news to your child Wednesday night or Thursday morning. You didn't have to tell them, I don't know we are going to school next year. I don't know what's going to happen to your friends that are in the dual language program. We have no answers. You weren't at school the next day when the teachers, students, and administrators were sobbing, because they don't know what's going to happen and their school is closing. You should be ashamed of yourselves. You've closed an amazing school, but I'm sure, don't worry, you'll have no problem selling such a dangerous school since you have already been taking people through potential buyers before the ink had even dried on your vote. I hope the public is watching this and realize what an absolute dumpster fire of a process this has been. Pause this process and do it right with the 27-28 school year.
The next speaker is Karen Fraley, followed by Kaya Fraley.
The children of the school district of Waukesha deserve better. Our children deserve better than to have leadership that thinks completely uprooting thousands of students by next fall is the best they can do. Our children deserve better than having leaders that are either too stubborn or too short-sighted to have listened to the community demands for an independent impact study months ago. An impact study which could have already been completed and which would have given us unbiased data with which to make a decision that would cause far less disruption to our kids. Our children deserve better than to have had their schools pitted against one another for survival without clear criteria by which to judge them. Why did the goalposts keep shifting? How were the different building criteria weighted? And again, why no impact study? If the data had shown that closing Bethesda was the least disruptive solution for the greatest number of kids in the district, I could accept that and move on. But you cannot tell me that option E1 is the best you can do. Our children deserve better than a district that claims to support transparency, but where it took 5 months and a lawyer for me to get my open records request back. A request which, I might add, is still not complete, as I am waiting for records which pertain to the dual language program and to students with disabilities. And to be clear, I don't blame Ms. Ettinger for this, I blame district leadership. Our children deserve better than option E1. When asked how much time the community had to weigh in on it, Dr. Siebert's answer was none. And I know you say you've had an 8 or 9 month process, but judging by the lack of records produced by my request, despite requesting both electronic and physical communications, the first several months of that process apparently consisted of nothing but phone calls among the administrative cabinet. How was data collected and analyzed? How were plans generated without any kind of paper trail? And in the end, you all voted on a plan that no one outside of the board and administration had even seen prior to that night. Our children deserve better. Our children in the dual language program deserve better than to have 2 dual language schools closed with the eventual stated goal of eliminating a third. The district has still not hired a replacement for Dee Garcia to lead and advocate for the program. The district is doing nothing to market the program, leaving the lane wide open for charters and private schools to poach our families. What conclusion should we draw but that the district wants to gut the program entirely? Our children deserve better than to have district leaders that treat education as a business that must be right-sized, AKA cut, rather than as a universal service meant for all children in our community. Of course, there's another way to look at this. There are members of this board who, despite their positions as leaders of a public school district, seem to be cheerleading its destruction, wanting education to become a marketplace instead of a public service we provide to all, for the good of all. As a taxpayer and as a parent, that is not acceptable. Our children deserve better than to have leaders of their public school district who don't believe in public education.
30 seconds.
What our children do deserve is a high-quality public education accessible to all students. What our children deserve is an education that meets their needs, whatever those needs are. What our children deserve is leadership of their school district that is actively and tirelessly working to improve the quality of their schools rather than gutting them. What our children deserve is stability, knowing that their school communities will be there for them now and into the future. What our children deserve is not what the leadership of this district is currently providing. Do better.
Is Kaya speaking? Yeah, okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kai, and I am in a 4th grade dual language class at Bethesda Elementary. The reason I am here tonight is because I am here to support Bethesda. Bethesda is very important to me. It is a dual language school with approximately 194 open seats. Bethesda was my first public school, and it has a library. I worry that if you close Bethesda and Hawthorne and move all of those kids to Lowell, Lowell will not have enough room for all of the monolingual kids of Hawthorne and Bethesda. More than half of the current Lowell students will be displaced. This plan affects more than just the students whose schools are closing. The board says that they don't have enough money to keep everything the way it is, but perhaps there's another solution. If the school board sells Blair and acquires offices in the high schools, which have some extra room, this could be a solution that helps the school board save money without displacing any students. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaya. All right, thank you, everyone, for your comments this evening. We are going to move next to minutes approval. The minutes for consideration tonight have been revised. Please note that the revised minutes are at your desk. They are for the regular board meeting on November 12th, 2025. You're looking for a motion?
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Gren. Any questions? Mrs. Voigt.
I need to note that, yes, I appreciate that they did make a change to the minutes as presented, because as the minutes were written, if you looked at page 2, it originally said that there wasn't an option for an action to be taken. And obviously, that was on the agenda, that should state that it was possible to take action at that point. And for further clarification, I want to direct your attention to that motion that Thomas Hardland made to, quote, proceed with option E1 as proposed. It was made to give direction to the development of the optimizing our future long-range plan. The minutes show the motion under the heading optimizing our future long-range plan update, and now adding the idea of being able to have action. The update label seems appropriate since option E1 was not in board docs on November 12th, for the members of the community to be aware of the changes that were made during the word workshop held on Monday, October 27th. According to parliamentary procedures, it's recommended that the motion include all the details of it to be part of the public record, especially in cases like that night when this decision has the extreme magnitude of the subject matter. It's also recommended that a motion be read in its entirety before calling for the vote, especially after hours of discussion, including substitute amendments, et cetera, et cetera. Note the clarification that I have been seeking since the November meeting. This motion does not include a timeline for school
Point of order.
closures.
Point of order.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Voigt, so for the minutes specifically, it's a record of what occurred during the meeting, not interpretation of the meaning of what happened during the meeting. So do you take issue with what happened, the record of what happened during the meeting?
No, I'm just saying, I'll bring it up when we get into the later discussion.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, Mrs. Anninger, would you take the roll call, please?
Betty Koenig?
Aye.
Natalie Gren?
Aye.
Eric Brooks?
Aye.
David Wad?
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia?
Aye.
Thomas Harlan?
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski?
Aye.
Diane Voigt?
Aye.
Kelly Piasek?
Aye. Passes 9-0. We will move next to the WEF report presented by Mrs. Koenig.
Thank you, Madam President. The Waukesha Education Foundation Board of Directors met last on December 4th, and here are some updates for you all. As a reminder, the Evening for Education theme for 2026 is Sail into Success. We're excited to welcome you aboard on Wednesday, March 25th at the Marriott in Waukesha. Visit WEFE26 at .givesmart.com. That's like WEFIFI 26 at givesmart.com for more information, or text WEFE26 to 76278. While we haven't officially sent out event info yet, we have already sold 110 seats. Please buy your tickets early if you are planning to attend. We have many sponsorships still available. We have provided a letter and a list of available sponsorships in case you are willing to help us spread the word. We are still collecting raffle items and auction items as well. Thank you. And this is at your desk for each of the board members. The awards committee will be reviewing the great nominations for the 2025 WEF Awards. Stay tuned for an announcement of the winners. We are welcoming Moreland OBGYN as our newest silver annual sponsor. Some staff changes. We said thank you to two of our existing board members who have completed their service to WEF. Special thanks to both Amanda Roddy and Manisha Nepke for sharing their time and talent. We also welcomed a new teacher liaison, Emily Slowinski from Prairie, will be joining our board in January in an advisory capacity, and Margaret Mulqueen will be transitioning from our advisory teacher liaison role to a full board member. We are also welcoming Nicole Holland to our WEF team, who is going to be working as a project assistant. Nicole comes to us from Hatfield. While she loved her job at Hatfield, she needed a more flexible part-time job due to some family obligations. We're thrilled to have her join us, and she's already making a major impact. If you need Lynette between 12:28 and 1:15, please use her email or cell. She is going to be working remotely during that time, but is available as needed. Finally, we wish you all a happy holiday season, and thank you for your work. Madam President, that concludes my WEF report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Koenig? Okay. We will move next then to an update from Dr. Siebert on the optimizing our future long-range planning.
All right, thank you, Dr. Piasek. So we'll get the slide deck loaded here, and we will walk through with you where we've been since November 12th, the things that we've accomplished, the things that we're planning to accomplish, and some timelines on how we're approaching all of that work. So with that being said, just a high-level overview of this three-phased process that you've seen multiple times. We talked about this starting in information sharing. We had 9 of those sessions, and we talked about it, I believe, and every time we kicked off one of the 22 gathering input sessions that we did over the summer, that this was an 18-month process, and all along was established to go into effect with the 26-27 school year. And that we believed that any of the plans, with the exception of the 7-12 plans, which we talked about in October, could be implemented in 26-27. We felt if it was a 7-12 plan, we would need 27-28 to prepare for that. We set out these criteria in the beginning of that process, looking at what we were trying to accomplish and continue to accomplish. We believe that your vote and the reduction from 12 elementary schools to 9 and 3 middle schools to 2 allows us to continue to do all of this at a high level and continue to put our resources where they need to be as our enrollment declines primarily due to the birth rate. This is a picture of E1 that you approved on November 12th. And as I said, we go from 12 elementary facilities to 9. We go from 3 traditional middle schools to 2. The K-8 STEM goes to Horning. Our 3 traditional high schools remain as they are. And East and WTA remain at the White Rock site through 26-27 with an eventual move to Hawthorne, or we would work with the board if we have had some interest since the board made their decision. That's been elevated. We have been giving tours to interested parties. So we may have to consider a different site for that, but we remain committed to East and WTA having their own building as the board has requested. So what we've accomplished since the last meeting, we use our Explorer, which is our weekly newsletter for the district staff. That continues to be our main source of information. So each week we provide updates, whether that's Mrs. Thiede giving staffing updates and timelines, or myself giving overall updates on the process. Since the last meeting, Ms. Gennerman has been instrumental in this, updating our website. Those documents are on your table. So you can see we have open house and enrollment information on those sheets. This one with the dates and times. For the first time in district history, we aren't competing against each other, and that's really been through Ms. Gennerman's leadership. We have those open houses all scheduled on different dates so that parents have the opportunity to check out one or more high school, one or more middle school, as well as all of the special programming that we continue to offer in the school district of Waukesha. So those all start. We have actually our dual enrollment parent information, and our first one of those is tomorrow night. But then everything else starts in January and fills those first 2 weeks of January with open houses on January 6th, 7th, 8th, 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. So we're excited about that. We also have some See It Live events. Those go back in district history a ways. When we used to offer a lot more of those, we're trying to get back into that, where parents can go and see dual language at the elementary level at Higher, as well as at the middle school level at Butler. And then you can also see that we end up getting into the state of Wisconsin open enrollment period, which is different than our school district intra-district enrollment period. That starts February 2nd, goes through April 30th, whereas our intra-district enrollment period, normally in December, we backed up into January, starts on the 5th, and will end on January 30th. So, Ms. Gunnerman will go to the next slide. My computer screwed up here. I apologize for that. She also, you can see on this document, she has really updated the website with all of that secondary open house information that we just talked about, the charter school and intra-district choice windows, as well as the 4K or 4-year-old kindergarten important events. So we are trying to put as much information on the district website, and these are just examples of sheets that are on the district website for people to be able to look toward. We also she's done a great job with the dual language parent information nights. So we have the one tomorrow night on December 11th. We have another one on Thursday, January 22nd. Parents do not have to go to one of those informational meetings before they sign up for the program. They can always go to one later, and they also can meet with our dual language staff and our monolingual staff, or our bilingual staff, I should say, here at Blair, Leticia and Maria. So those are great options for people. And we already talked about some of those See It Lives and information nights. We also, on the website, when you look at it, it looks a lot different. It's really spruced up. And we have that charter school application window as well. So we're really trying to highlight the work that we're doing with our STEM program and with eAchieve, as well as our academies at South High School. So right now she's pulled up the district website. You can see the carousel, how it looks updated and how we're rolling through those various different slides, so they're really front and center for our parents to be able to have the information that they need to be able to see when all of those events are being held. All right, we'll go back to the presentation. So again, the district website has been updated. All of those secondary school pieces have been updated. And another thing that we've done since the last meeting is a meeting with the STEM Governance Board and the STEM principals. We took them to Horning. We gave them a tour of the building. They were very excited about the opportunity to see Horning and the opportunity to have Horning as their new home. We also had their governance board meeting there that evening where we discussed their building capacity and updating their contract from an elementary enrollment cap and a middle school enrollment cap to one large district K-8 overall cap to be able to fill the school to a greater extent. So we're talking in the 800, mid 800 range with a capacity of 925. That's their current capacity. I believe it's 846. They currently have 607 students. So it's going to take them a while to get up to that cap, but there is obviously ample space at Horning for that program, which is the one that continues to grow in the district to continue to grow. So we'll continue to talk with them and meet with them. Our continued priorities, we do have draft boundary maps. They are with our bus company, First Student, and First Student is working on designing our transportation options for the new boundaries. That obviously takes them a little bit of time to be able to do. Our goal is to be able to communicate about boundaries, transportation eligibility, home schools, and dual language schools, ideally next week, if we can get the bus company to get that information back to us. And if we can't do it next week, we will do it over the winter break. But we are very hopeful that we will be able to do it next week, and parents will have the opportunity then to know what are the boundaries, what is my home school, what's my dual school, and do I or don't I qualify for transportation. So we are working with our partners there on that effort, and that's going well. Ms. Gunnerman is going to show you, she's been leading our charter schools in their work together, and we really have had that theme of not competing, but trying to lift everybody up together. So not only the different dates for open houses, but increased marketing efforts. And maybe I'll let her talk a little bit about that and then talk about a video that we're working on putting together.
Sure. Like Dr. Subert said, all the charter school principals and myself have been working together and really wanting to highlight all the different opportunities within the district. And so we are working to have a ad or advertisement put together, and so it is still a work in progress, but the idea is that we use this to increase our marketing efforts between now and the end of June, and then again during the open enrollment window for the state, trying to attract those families that live outside the district to come into the district. So this is still a work in progress, but I'll give you just a sneak peek. There is no sound or titles just yet, but you can see our students working diligently.
All right, thanks, Ms. Ketterman. All right, another thing that we continue to do is collaborate with our principals and keep them out in front of what's coming in this process. They have done a great job of maintaining their focus on their teachers, and their teachers keeping their focus on their students, and our continued focus on high levels of student learning. We meet with them on a monthly basis where we give them updates, keep them out in front of where we're heading. And we have planned out for the future. Ms. Gunnerman does a beautiful job with that, and she has a leadership steering committee where we already have drafted what our August professional time looks like and are really trying to be proactive in terms of working with them on change management, how things are going to be different in every school because of this process, but how things also with their leadership can be equally successful, if not even more successful. We wanted to point this out. So Mr. Pat has been really our liaison for school choice and for working with parents who have questions on school choice. We've had a lot of questions about school choice, and so we have put together some priorities on how school choice will work, and we want people to realize that at the elementary level, we feel confident that we should be able to accommodate the vast majority of the choice. We are asking people to reapply because we think it's the cleanest way for us to be able to know who wants to continue in the school they're in, because we're also hearing from people that are very interested that they want to go to their new boundary school. So that'll be the easiest way for us to do that. But you'll see, based on the priorities, and I'll let Mr. Pat explain those priorities, how we will look at school choice.
Thank you, Dr. Siebert. The priorities that we look at when school choice applications come in, especially in this unique circumstance, are obviously there where anyone who attendance area of school has changed. Basically, your school is closed and you're moving, or your attendance area was changed and you're going somewhere else. You had school choice before. We're going to grant you that priority to go back to the school that you were at. So we're going to look at you as a priority person, somebody who was school choice before, and also was previously in the building but maybe districted out with the new boundary. So those individual students are on par with priority one. Priority two is for any new applicants if they have a sibling at the same school. And again, this is for K-8 only, as our high school choice process is separate and is open to all students and maintaining its current status. And then priority three for K through 8 is any student applying for school choice for the first time. So once again, priority two was siblings of individuals who are currently at the school would get priority over any new applicant who wouldn't have a sibling there. We want to make sure families, if they have multiple siblings at one school, can drive them to that school based on our school choice transportation protocols.
Thank you, Mr. Pat. Our website is being updated, so we're moving from our current Optimizing Our Future webpage to what will be a new hub for all of the information that families need. Do you want to give a little sneak peek of that, Ms. Gunnerman?
Sure. On the slide deck on the left, you see our current Optimizing Our Future webpage. We started this really not knowing what would all be there based on number of resources and documents. And so currently, if you look at the webpage, there's a long list of information that was shared at each phase and additional documents, including enrollment studies and boundaries and that sort of thing. So what we are working towards is revising the webpage so that all this information is still accessible, but in drop-down menus, and so that we can prioritize the space to be the most recent message from Dr. Siebert, along with E1 pictured. In addition, we'll have a space where family communication that has been sent will be always kept here with a date of when it was sent. And then we will also have a section where we can refer back to all the information that is currently on the webpage. It will just be in drop downs and a little bit more cleaner organized since there is a lot of resources currently there. So this is just a preview of some of what's to come, but we want to make sure that everyone knows that we are coming out with a new page, and we'll communicate that in the next communication for parents and staff.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go to the next. We've got some implementation timeline pieces here for you, and we'll plan to do this with you every month so that you can kind of see how we're progressing. So I mentioned the meeting we had with the STEM Governance Board at Horning and working on those contractual capacity numbers. This week, we continue, Mr. Pat is our liaison with First Student. They are working diligently on those new transportation routes. And so that's really what we were waiting for, to make sure that these new boundaries that we have drafted can be transported in a very similar pattern to what we currently have and with our current existing number of routes. We should be able to have that, like I said, when we'll get to that here in just a minute. We talked about revising the website. Obviously, we're here tonight for the school board meeting. Tomorrow, we will have a communication to families that will talk about open house and enrollment information. It'll talk about the school choice information. It'll talk about the website that we just talked about, and that the next communication will be coming on the next slide, which we'll talk about here in a minute. And then we also have our weekly communication to the staff after the board meetings about the work that we're doing and how it impacts them. Then, we said the weeks of December 15 or 22, as I said earlier, we'll update our transportation and enrollment web pages. We'll have another communication to families. That'll be the confirmation of their school boundaries and what their home school is. It'll have information about what their dual language school assignments will be. It'll have access and directions. We have a website that we're designing that'll have their ability to put their address in and see where they find themselves. So that's another way that they can know that. We will have that school choice information on the process and priority considerations as well in there. And then another reminder of the open house events. And as I said, we're hopeful we can do that next week, and that is our goal. The communication to the staff via the Explorer will also then continue. And as we get into January, that's when we have the application window of January 5th through the 30th. Mr. Pat has said this many times, there is no priority if you get in there on the 5th versus if you get in there on the 30th, right? So parents should take the time that they need to make the decisions that they need to make. And within that process, they can apply for any of the charter school opportunities we have or any other traditional school that they're interested in. We'll have those various open houses all on the different nights that we're excited about. And we'll also have the dual language parent night. We have one more in January, and the See It Live events in later January, and our 4K parent night. The week of January 12th, we'll have another communication to families, and this will be more to the elementary families of current fifth graders with information about dual at the middle school level, English language learners, special ed, and then also the advanced math courses for the fifth graders going into sixth. So that'll come out the week of January 12th, and we'll have another Explorer. We have that every week, generally on Wednesday. On board meeting weeks, we do it on Thursday. And then January 19th to the 30th, that's when we'll start high school course selection and middle school course selection. So getting that rolling is important. As the school populations come together, then the next piece is to get the course enrollments to come together, because that's the information that Mrs. Thede needs in order to start her staffing work. So in terms of our key next steps, we'll try to bring these to you every month too. So what are the things that we need to continue to focus on? So in December, we will have the families receive the school assignments and transportation eligibility that I've mentioned a few times. And then the important pieces for families in January will be that intra-district open enrollment window from the 5th to the 30th. And the secondary course selections will be completed during that time as well, which is an important piece of information. For the staff, the transfer window, if they'd like to move to a different school or a different assignment, that will open the first week of January. So that will then also be open at least through the date where the annual retirement notice is due, which is February 13th. And Mrs. Thede is thinking about whether or not she'll extend that transfer window opportunity. So that will come together. And then in February and March, she'll be analyzing the course selection and school enrollment data so that she can begin staffing both secondary and elementary in the month of March, which is a fast track compared to how we normally do that process. But we do recognize the uncertainty that a process like this causes, and so we're trying to fast track everything to the greatest extent that we can. So, our last slide here today is just a review of option E1. And we'll do this every month with you. We are feeling good about our progress in terms of the things that we're completing. We have other priorities, obviously, that we're being worked on. And we're putting a strong emphasis on our communication plan so that we can continue to update our parents and update our staff with the information that they need to make the decisions that they need to feel confident, to feel comfortable, and to feel successful. So, with that, that wraps up our slide deck for this evening. But I do want to also just mention that as a cabinet, it's a major focus of ours. It's what we work on a great deal of the time. And we'll continue to do that, and we'll continue to be united in making this plan effective and making it work for the 26-27 school year. So with that, let's pause, and then we'll answer your questions, and it might be a different person depending on what the question is, but as a cabinet, we'll do our best. You bet.
Thank you. Mrs. Voigt and then Mrs. Kozlowski.
I have serious concerns about the timeline that is being imposed here. Since there was not a timeline discussed at all at the last meeting where the motion to proceed with option E1 was discussed. I would like to know why there's this rush to impact the closing and repurposing of 6 schools. Why does it need to happen next year? We haven't heard from the administration about the impact, but some parents have done the research that this is actually going to disrupt the lives of over 2,000 students, 1/5 of our total student population, and displace, relocate about 200 staff members. Why the rush to do that within just weeks after the first exposure to the concept of the E1 option? I think we've done an amazing job over the last months as we explained to the district the idea of our declining enrollment situation. I think the community knows we need to do something, without a doubt. I think we've done an amazing job of that. And we've gone through the concept of plans A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then all of a sudden we pop E1 and E2 that nobody's heard anything about. And without even being included in board docs when we're making the motion to proceed with it, I don't feel the community is aware of this. And some of the speakers mentioned the fact that did the people over at Horning realize that this was going to be happening? No. And all of a sudden we're telling them that their school is closing and being repurposed to be the STEM location. That's not transparency. And I know that most of you ran on the concept of wanting to have transparent, government. Truly, one of the things I think that we can all agree on, transparency is important. Can you tell me that you feel that we've been transparent in the passing of E1?
Do you have more?
Well, I do have many more. I'd like an answer to that question. Do you feel that this motion, can impact all of these lives and the entire, school district of Waukesha? I guess I totally did not realize at the time that we were making that vote that this was an implementation decision, not a, hey, we finally came up with one, as we're sorting down from A, B, C, D, E, F, G, E1, E2 emerge. Okay, E1, E2 were discussed at length, and the pros and cons, and E1, after substitute amendments, et cetera, was passed. But again, the community had no concept of what E1 was. We didn't spell out the details of that at the time that the motion was being considered. And I just, the transparency to the community, when I hear people saying that they had no idea that their school was even in the plan, are told the next day that you're closing. That's not the way we're supposed to be doing as elected officials. That's not the way that we should be handling this kind of process. I absolutely had no concept that we would be talking about implementation next year. And I think your the initial communication saying, take a year. And that would be that'd be adequate then for families to realize. Now, I just totally can't understand what the rush is. Why do we feel we need to implement, like in 6 weeks' notice, making parents make decisions from November to the end of December? Like that, it reminds me so much of how poorly the process was done, when we were trying to merge. Yeah, and I experienced that firsthand during my gap year on being on the board. This announcement that we're going to be doing it, and then all of a sudden, in 6 weeks, all the teachers needed to realize that their school was closing. The students needed to just realize that they were being displaced. And that was one school. And now I just see this is like magnified by 6 schools. Like it just doesn't make sense for the community to not have a chance to have feedback on does this plan make sense? They haven't seen it. We've done a great job of communicating until right now when it's the crucial point where it's the impact on the kids, the impact on the families. And I'm sorry, this is not the way, a long-range plan should be implemented. I was part of the last long-range plan decision-making, and I know how hard it was for us to decide that we had to pick the schools, that we had to think about the declining enrollment, because this isn't a new thing. When you look at the decisions that have been made, going back to closing Pleasant Hill, going back to closing Saratoga and then repurposing it, the closing of Blair and then repurposing it. We've done an amazing job as a district, I think, in our last long-range plan, of not letting our buildings, like when Pleasant Hill became a leased facility. We're looking at those long-range kind of implications. We might close it, but we've been able to do a next step. And I appreciate the discussion that we had, and that's why this really caught me off guard. Like, we don't want to necessarily close White Rock next year because we don't know that we're going to be able to sell that school. Why dislocate those kids that are being successful in that environment until we know what the next process is? Why are we closing all these schools without having a plan for what's going to happen to them? As good stewards of the fact that we've invested $91 million in our schools from 27 to 2025. We took very seriously considered that no significant improvements happened at Saratoga, White Rock, Pleasant Hill, knowing as this last long-range plan was being implemented that those with the schools would be the first ones in line to be sold. The community can expect us to do that as we minimize our footprint. We can sell those buildings first. We can look at the marketing focus on those properties that are suitable for development. But where do we get the notion that all of a sudden in this next, potentially 10-year long-range plan, that we should say all these things have to happen tomorrow? Literally, these families had no clue about this impact that was going to have on them. Why do we feel that we have to have it be such a rush? And I have not yet to get a response to that. How can we justify making all of this, the 8 people on the board who voted to approve it? How can you speak for the entire community of Waukesha to make those kinds of decisions? And immediate impact without even asking for any feedback. We heard from so many during the course of the last months. I have a bag full of communication, literally dozens and dozens in our, put together in our binder of choices. Many heartfelt pleas at the board meetings. Don't close, Bethesda. Don't close, Hawthorne. And we're not listening. We're saying, nope, we don't care. We're just going to make it happen tomorrow. We can definitely look at that as being the next potential to sell. And again, I had to, admit when I was on the board that Whittier was going to be up for consideration at some point, and obviously the schools that we didn't invest in were going to be up for consideration. And we looked at all the list. And, again, we didn't that was 2 years before Whittier was asked to be involved in a merger. You know, and so again, the community didn't know about it, but at least the board had a long-range impact concept. We've now just been presented with E1 as a proposal to think about the long-range solution. When I think long-range, I think of that last one. It was a 15-year plan. You know, starting with the first closures that we've talked about in the past, you know, we've done an amazing job, I think, of all those closures, with the idea of potentially having a plan for being able to lease the building and not have it stand idle. At this point, what's going to happen to these buildings if we close them and we have them sit idle, especially for the Bethesda parents? Like, they've been able to have a neighborhood school that they love. They could just walk there. And now they're expected that they have to make a decision within weeks, you know, of this decision that this board has made. You know, it's going to influence, their kids have to take a bus now, probably, to get to where they're going, you know? And their whole lifestyle has changed as far as daycare and somebody being there to make sure they can, you know, do the busing situation. The whole concept, why? What is the rush? Why do we have to implement this next year? I totally do not understand that. And again, we did not talk about a timeline when you did, as a board, say this is what we should consider. And again, we had to make some decisions about what to consider.
Okay, I think there are some other board members that would like an opportunity to speak or possibly respond.
Can I have an answer to why?
I don't know if you're directing the question directly at me, but we operate as a board.
It's administration's decision to take the motion that we passed, you know, 8-1, and implement it. And what prompted you to think that it couldn't be the year from now, which was your first thought, your first inkling? What made you switch it up to being next month?
Well, I'll try to help with that, Mrs. Voigt. So the only time we talked about 27-28 was at the October board meeting when we talked about option G. And that was a 7-12 model. And we had a slide deck where we showed a number of building types of decisions that we would have to make to bring the middle schoolers up to the high school. And we thought that would require more time. Throughout the entire process, like I mentioned earlier, we always talked about it being an 18-month process from April of 2025 until September of 2026. And so all of the other options that didn't involve grade reconfigurations, such as D or G, we always discussed as implementing for 26, 27. And my understanding from the rest of the board is that what they understood that to be as well.
Why do we have to have it be implemented at this point with such short notice for the community?
It is still an 18-month process, right? We're in December, and we have all the way until September of 2026.
But the decisions have to be made next month. The decisions have to be made, like, literally within the 6-week time period. You know, and there's a lot of elements of E1 that I did not have a chance to have input on the building of it because of some of the procedures that happened, taking away my opportunity to be able to be involved in that process. Questions that I was asking then, you know, and still do, I think need to be addressed. You know, if we, especially the notion of what we want to do with Horning, you know, the school that knew nothing about this. You know, how can we make this move and then relocate them to the middle school, the other two middle schools, and put them at 101% capacity? It would totally make sense in a long-range plan to say, when we hit 90%, which was what was recommended by Dr. Garza, you know, you don't want to be at any higher than 90% when you make a move, you know. And why would we not wait till we got to a reasonable level, especially with middle schoolers? Why do you want to pack our two remaining middle schools at 101% capacity? You know, it makes no sense to me that would be a rush situation. It could be a gradual implementation. You know, move the STEM over to Horning to start, and let it be a school within a school. That could easily be implemented for next year. But why relocate, and just for the sake of being able to merge the entire STEM program together? Should the Horning current students have more priority than a wish to put together a charter school to take over their building? Again, especially with them not even realizing that they could come and speak for, as we heard tonight, the amazing staff that's there, the improvement that they're starting to have. And now we're going to take away the stability and the support that the special needs kids have, et cetera, without, them even having a chance to respond. That's not the way we make a long-range decision, that we've ever made a long-range decision in the district. I've been on this board for 6 years, have served for 6 years. And this is not the expectation that the community has. I know you have 8 votes, but why? Why would that, be considered reasonable?
Okay, Mrs. White, I think I've tried to be very generous with the time. I'm going to let some other board members respond or comment. I think they had comments or questions as well. And then we can come back to you if we need more time. Mrs. Kozlowski or Mr. Zenobia?
Thanks. I actually have 2 questions. One is going to be for Ms. Getterman, and the other one would be for Mr. Pat. I really liked to see the marketing video. I think one of the things that we've talked a lot about is how we really start to market our district, because we know, regardless of buildings, that our academics, the offerings and the programs, the staffing and the curriculum are top-notch. We've seen that on our report cards. We expect that to continue. But the one piece that I do want to ask about is the dual language. That's a big piece. It's a big piece for me, but also for the community as to where we are with that. And then also, so where are we with the marketing for dual language? And then I believe the discussion that we had for the replacement of D was waiting to finalize where we got with the optimizing piece, and that is still on our agenda to be able to bridge that.
Yes, I can speak to the marketing. The video that you saw is really a collaboration to emphasize many of the district opportunities, charter school and dual language within that. So like I said, the video is just draft version right now, but that has been the intent around that is the charter schools as well as the dual language program. Again, not competing, but just advertising. We have multiple K-12 learning opportunities for our students within the District of Waukesha.
The dual language session tomorrow night is held here, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then what, Mr. Pat?
I can answer the question about the open position.
Oh, yes, please.
With the Optimizing Our Future work, we decided to pause on filling that position, really evaluating the quality people that we currently have and working as a team to really ensure that things are continuing to progress and move forward for all things multilingual, not just dual language, but also world languages, ESL services. There is a variety of other things within that role, including teaching and learning at the middle school level. And so with the help of other directors, other coordinators, and principals, we have been leading that, and we will continue to do that for this year. We have posted for a position that is open right now as the director for teaching and learning that is open, that we intend to fill. It will include multilingual oversight and direction and other things as well.
Thank you. And then Mr. Pat, in regards to transportation, one of the conversations that has been had through the course of this process.
Mrs. White, can you turn your microphone off, please? Thank you.
Was concern and rumors that children would be on the bus for hours and hours at a time and getting picked up at the crack of dawn. The last I heard as we were working through this is that that's not true, and that working with First Student has actually kept us to the point that the routes are going to be more efficient than probably what we were in the past, with similar times to current standards that our students were having in prior years. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's our expectation for next year. So we did research into our longest routes, and we've given them the criteria that our expectation is we're not having longer routes than we currently do, or we want to have less time is even better, but this is our highest end, and you need to give us a plan that includes that.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. Zenobia.
My comments were generally toward some of the things that Mrs. Voigt had raised, so I don't know if this is a portion where we only want to address other board members or just
The
administration.
floor is yours.
Okay. So just in listening to what you had to say, Mrs. Voigt, I think I said this at the last board meeting, I completely appreciate your passion in this area, for sure. I think, and maybe not everyone, but I think what a lot of us are feeling right now is buyer's remorse for having to make a very hard decision. But I would just say that the timelines and the feedback that we have gone through, for the most part of this entire year, we have had these slides in front of us, and we have talked about all of these options extensively. We've had 2 board workshops. I know there's been questions raised about the details of what was E1 when it was passed, but we've discussed all these things a number of times. They've been brought up even prior to the board workshop in November. Sitting here today, I don't think anyone has a great feeling about the fact that we have a lot of displaced families that are going to be finding their new school or staying where they are. We've heard a lot of passion from the community, but we've also heard we've only heard from those community members that are most affected, those that have children, and that's been wonderful feedback. We don't get the benefit of hearing from the entire community. And some people could argue that the fact that we don't hear from people that don't have children in the school district, that are paying taxes for the school district to be here, aren't saying by their silence that, hey, we understand that change has to happen. And my vote last month is exactly that. I don't like the change necessarily that everyone is going to have to go through, but it is going to have to happen. And I think for the past year, we have sat here and discussed it and done our very best to listen to the community. I received all the postcards from students all over the schools. And it's very heartbreaking to know that that decision had to be made. It doesn't change the fact that it does, and that many of those students are going to find themselves in a school that they will find is equally as good as the one they were in, and perhaps even better in many cases. So that's just to say we had to make a decision so that we can move forward. I don't understand why we would be questioning the timeline. The administration needs time to start to implement this, and something needs to be implemented now. I don't think that was in any way new material or a surprise to anyone. I think it's just simply the shock of now it's becoming reality. And, I do feel for all of our community that's going to be affected. I really do. I've had my own kids go through transitions, even 2 in 1 year. So I understand how hard that is in a family. And it's very tough to sit here and know that you made a decision that now has to be implemented. It is now going to actually take effect. So, I don't think we can, go back now and second guess ourselves. I think we made a great decision in the context of moving forward, optimizing what we have, and the term right-sizing the district for the future. Again, I appreciate the comments, but at the same time, I think we're kidding ourselves to pretend like we haven't discussed this thoroughly. So I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Mr. Watt?
Thank you. So I listened to Ms. Voigt's comments with great interest, and It actually reminded me of a board meeting I happened to watch recently. This particular board was laboring over a very difficult decision. They'd been laboring over it for 5 months. They came together. They polled the parents in the community multiple times. They eventually adopted what the parents wanted that showed up in this survey. Every parent in the district was surveyed. 2/3 of the parents supported it, and they adopted it. 2 weeks later, they came back together, and the administration presented a proposal to phase that in on a different time schedule than I think had initially been thought of. The board rejected that. And then out of the blue, a board member presented an option that had never been polled, that had never been discussed. In fact, when this board member made the motion, the president actually asked the board member, do we want to hear what that proposal is in detail before you make the motion? And they said, no, I'm going to go ahead and make the motion. Considerable discussion ensued, and this proposal that no one asked for and no one had ever heard of before that evening, had never been discussed publicly with anybody, was adopted. It was to be adopted, by the way, within 2 weeks. And now, to quote the famous Paul Harvey, here is the rest of the story. That board meeting was a school district of Waukesha board meeting in August of 2020. People may remember what was being discussed back then. It was the reopening of schools. And parents had overwhelmingly said, we want our kids back in school 5 days a week. And Diane Voigt made a motion to implement hybrid. No one asked for it. They had 2 weeks to implement it. And there was absolutely no remorse when that decision went down in flames. If anyone remembers, what we learned in December of that year was our kids were failing. They were suffering mental health issues, many of whom are still wrestling with them today. Now,
Mr. Wadd,
I am going to
a
point out
discussion,
that
please.
this is relevant because Ms. Voigt is gaslighting us.
Can we keep it to a discussion level, though, please? Thank you.
The timeline was always, as Mr. Zenobia pointed out, 26-27, always. There was never any concern about the number of students disrupted when this happened in the past, but now suddenly we're supposed to be concerned that in 6 months, rather than 2 weeks, there is a change that's going to impact 20% of the district instead of the entire one? That community awareness was a major concern when a previous proposal gave no community awareness and a 2-week timeline for implementation? That decision was a disaster. This one has been well thought out. Everything has been presented, discussed publicly, including moving STEM to Horning. Now, did it come through the same way everything else did? No, and I do regret that. But the fact of the matter is, we discussed STEM to Horning in board meetings, in board workshops, which were open to the public and which were broadcast. Nothing that was in that plan was a full surprise. Yes, I regret the fact that there wasn't more of an opportunity for people at Horning to provide feedback, but I don't think it would have changed the outcome of the vote. And to reopen it now, just to provide that opportunity to land at the same decision, would only, I think, further traumatize those who are having to deal with the difficult decision that we made that is impacting their lives.
Mr. Wadd. I'm going to actually make a few comments. Mr. Harlan has something to say, and then we will get back around to you. Mr. Harlan, go ahead.
So I guess I also wanted to touch on some of your comments, Ms. Voigt. So I think that you're taking issue with the way that the motion was put forth and that it didn't spell out the specific timeline in that motion. So we were all given a packet with a very detailed timeline from December all the way through the following August. And so when the motion was put forth, E1 as proposed, it was with that timeline that you were presented with, along with everyone else on the board. So I don't necessarily think that it's fair to say that when E1 was moved to be adopted, that there was no specific timeline associated with that in the motion. Your question as to why now, for me specifically, there's a lot that goes into specifically why now. Yes, we are impacting many students and staff, but the moves that we are making are also going to be incredibly beneficial when we look at the outcomes for these students that will now have access to language pathologists, psychologists, they're specialized teachers that aren't having to travel anymore, that they will have them available to them at their home school. So I feel like that is a huge benefit that we'll be able to provide to our students with that. That is a benefit to the staff that no longer has to travel, so both the staff and the students will be benefiting from that. As far as the financial piece is going, we recently received news that the special education reimbursement rate is not what we initially believed it to be, which is essentially going to result in a $1.2 million gap in this current budget cycle. We need to do something to be able to continue to operate effectively. Otherwise, we are going to have to look at taking actions outside of that to impact programs more deeply, and I don't think that's anything that anyone wants to do here. So I wanted to give some provide my insight on how that proposal was made, the specific timeline for that motion to adopt E1, as well as some of the reasoning why it is important that we move forward within the adopted cycle for the 26-27 school year.
Mrs. Koenig.
Thank you. Mrs. Voigt, I completely understand your passion, and I often thought the same thing in my mind, about possibly slowing things down. And here's, I guess, what kind of changed my perspective a little bit on that. For every person, that came forward and or emailed and, I talked outside of, out in the community, they all said the same thing. We know it, it has to be done, and schools need to close, and that was never a point of argument. But they all ended with the same phrase, but I don't want you to close our school. Okay, and I heard from multiple, parts of the community. For every, I tried to do what I felt was right, but the bottom line is schools do need to close. And by my question would be, because you asked us, why so soon, why so sudden, why do we have to do this so soon? My wondering is, if we wait then, what does that do? The bottom line is, we're going to close schools. We now have another year of anxiety, worry, fret, knowing something's coming. Sometimes a constant sense of foreboding that doom is coming is really not a healthy thing either. So while I understand your point and concern with what you feel to be a very fast timeline, it really has been discussed a long time. I mean, since last spring, we knew what was coming. But my wondering is, by postponing it and putting it off another year, knowing that, the decision's been made, but we're going to postpone it. Like I said, sometimes a more rapid change is sometimes, it's more difficult in the moment, but in the long run, you move forward faster when things are done. When you don't have a year, another year to ponder, think about, worry, the anxiety alone, just knowing it's coming. So I guess my question would be, if we wait a year, it doesn't change anything. It's still, we're implementing a change. So I understand, as a board member, we didn't come up with these ideas. I think there's a lot of misconception as well. we're the ones who created these things. The administration came to us with concerns that they know for optimizing our future, for the health of our district, some changes needed to be made. After looking at all, the lengthy discussions and time we put into this, and an extreme amount of time they put into it, with meetings and all through the summer, they've given me no reason not to have faith that they are making what they feel are the best decisions for our students. I look at the success of our district. I look at the last 4 years since I've been even a part of this board, what we've been able to do with their leadership, at the helm of our district. I personally have faith that if they are ready to implement and they feel they can do this successfully, they've given me no pause to doubt that they can do what they say they can do. And so to be fearful of with the 150 what ifs, again, is it healthy to just keep postponing something that is coming and just keep kicking the can down, or just making a decision, but we're not going to do it till next year, but we know it's coming? Sometimes I wonder the wisdom of that. That's just my perspective. But I understand your passion.
I want to address a couple of things, and I want to try to stay germane to where we're at. I mean, I think the implementation timeline and the questions about that are important, and as we're talking about implementation and trying to get these dates out and information out so that parents can make informed decisions, a couple things that I want to respond to and hit on. I actually think the full implementation in the next school year is actually the right answer. I don't see it as the disadvantage, I see it as the advantage, because it allows us to make the full shift and trying to stage it. And we did talk about that at a couple of our workshops, like could we phase it in, could we move from one plan, through to a couple others. But in order to make this, the gears turn together, I believe that implementation next year is actually the right answer. When I recorded the motion and made the decision that I did, there was no question in my mind about the implementation timeline, because that has always been the implementation timeline, and we weren't entertaining Plan G. That was the only one that came up in the workshop with the alternative timeline. So I think that has been consistent since March in any prior conversation. So that question of when never up for discussion from my perspective. But the other thing I wanted to address is something that you brought up when we were approving the minutes, and that from a parliamentary perspective, there may be a problem with how the motion was actually documented. In fact, quite often we make motions that say approving a plan as presented. What we don't do often, though, is read the details of that plan. And something that did happen during the last meeting when the motion was made and seconded, we took a couple of minutes. In fact, I said, okay, let's take a minute and talk about what that means, and went through specifically all the details of that plan. I asked Dr. Siebert to put the plan back up on the screen. And so I don't believe that there was any question about what it was that was in the plan that we were voting on. I also believe that E1 and E2 were variations of E that had been discussed at length during the October 27th board workshop that we had. I wanted to address some of the language that referred to perhaps how access was handled to that board workshop, because I've heard words such as denied or revoked. And something I just want to remind everybody about is that we do have a board policy, Policy 164, that governs our meetings. That policy is actually very specific that unless there's a public health emergency that would otherwise not allow us to meet in person, that the expectation is that board members meet in person. And so when I was asked as a board president to make an exception for remote participation, for international remote participation, in referring to that policy along with Dr. Siebert and legal counsel, that I do not have the authority to give you that permission. That is actually a decision that needs to be made by the board, and that would have required convening a meeting to take an action. However, the workshops that were done for this particular program are the only 2 workshops that I'm aware of in the last ever that have been live streamed. In fact, going back all the way to 2018, I cataloged 11 different workshops, 5 of them including the title of either long-range planning or I think it was building consolidation that were neither live streamed nor recorded. And so we did our best to make all of that information available to the public. In fact, I believe that you were able to view the workshop while you were in Greece. Dr. Siebert and I received an email from you during the workshop that said you preferred to have STEM at Horning, not at Les Paul. And that Central or Les Paul would be the location of the remaining middle school. And so I did offer to you that I would try to stay abreast of my email while we were having that conversation, and I did. In fact, in the beginning of that workshop, I raised some of the questions that you had sent along to us. So, some of those questions were actually repeated by other board members during the workshop, some of the ones that you had sent along. So I did just want to address some of those things because I think the language that's being used in terms of perhaps what access has been provided or what decisions have been made potentially without full transparency, I think are a stretch of what in fact has happened. And I have done my best to be as accommodating as possible within the boundaries of what I have the authority to do without the board taking an action. The other thing I just want to say when we talk about the timeline and the why, although you were not here to vote on the final budget proposal, we did address in that budget hearing a significant shift in the state aid that we were eligible for, in addition to the ongoing structural deficit that we face of a minimum of $3 million per year. So I think it's also important that we acknowledge the fact that when we choose to continue to put money into keeping buildings open that aren't fully occupied or occupied at an optimal capacity, we are taking money away from our ability to employ high-quality educators and put excellent curriculum in the classrooms. And from my perspective, I think that the timeline of fixing that problem is very time-sensitive. And so for me, the need to move to this implementation is explained by we need to do it all at once because that's the way to get it right, and the timing of it is important because we have real budgetary challenges that if we do nothing, we're going to find ourselves in situations that other districts are in. And fortunately, at this point, we are not. Any other comments? Otherwise, I'll let Mrs. Voigt respond. Mrs. Grahn or Mr. Brooks? Okay. Mrs. Voigt.
I want to start by saying that I have a unique perspective, having been on the board when we were faced with a very big decision about the referendum. And in 2018, again, the administration sought a referendum for $100,000 to build a new middle school. After many listening sessions and surveys, which I think is lacking in our current decision-making process, what does the community really want? In that case, we determined that Waukesha did not like the $100,000 plan. Instead, we asked for $60,000. And based on the listening sessions and the surveying, we decided we wanted to build safe entrances for each of our elementary schools. We wanted to add elevators at Butler and Hawthorne. We wanted to add the beautiful cafeteria at Les Paul, and all the other things that we've seen that have made that $60 million investment a truly impressive result in the buildings that we have in our district. After getting community input, that referendum passed with 67% approval, which is unheard of in referendum terms. And and now we're 4 months away from actually having it paid off in record time. I think the concept of listening to the community and really hearing what they have suggested and putting it into implementation, I totally have an aversion to selling a building and having it stand vacant. That's not being a good steward, after putting money into the new elevator at Hawthorne, et cetera, and to say now we want to close it without knowing what the next step is going to be for it, that's where I think it's rushed. To be good stewards, we need to be able to take the time to have a plan. We've heard lots of amazing ideas about repurposing. One of them that I had heard was the idea of setting up a daycare program for staff, in one of our vacant buildings. And that was actually one of the considerations for Blair originally, before it became the idea of being our new administrative building. It was one of the ones that was tossed around back in the day. I think to get community feedback before we do implementation is really important. What can the community suggest that we can do with these buildings to be good stewards of the money that's been invested in making them, like the amazing schools that they are right now? My other really big concern is the fact that we've ignored the appeals for an impact statement, which again is beyond the brain power in this room, having somebody else take a look at the impacts. And my real concern is the impact that it's going to have on, again, the 27% population at Hawthorne that has disabilities, and the 56.7% that are of Hispanic or Latino, backgrounds. We haven't taken the time, even though there's been an equity complaint filed about the disparate impact on the school closure, decision because of those protected communities. And I think that to do justice to that community and their plea to do an impact statement and see how they're going to be impacted by these kinds of closures again, I think we're doing a disservice, and I'm afraid that we are opening ourselves up to a lawsuit about the fact that that has not been done especially after being warned, with a specific complaint and with literally 1,000 people asking to do a pause and do an impact statement. This is early on. If we had done, this is what we're thinking about, these are the things we're thinking about, what is the impact going to be on our kids? We're doing an amazing job right now with our school report cards. And some of the schools that we're looking to close have done a fantastic job of using the curriculum that we're making available for them. Having trained staff that are able to work with kids and help them to show the improvement that we're seeing on the school report cards. And I just hate to see us with this, very, I think, fast decision without thinking about how are those kids affected. We have to be thinking about more than capacity, more than dollars and cents. These are kids' lives. And a lot of the kids that we're talking about being displaced are from, at Horning and at Hawthorne, have, special circumstances in their lives that we should be sensitive to. And the stability that they have in their current schools, is tremendously valuable to their lives. We're not in a financial crisis. We have the opportunity to raise our taxes if that would be necessary to be able to make we're right now the lowest one at $4.99 mill rate compared to up to $6.88 for other districts in our area. We have to at least give our taxpayers a chance to think about maybe they would rather increase our taxes rather than see these dramatic impacts on kids. And that's one thing I know that this board does not want to see that happen. We're very proud of the fact that we're in a great financial situation. But I think, again, when it comes to the lives of these kids, maybe it has to be more than just a dollars and cents decision that we consider the impact.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other comments? This is a discussion item, so we're not in a position to take any action. Other comments? Dr. Siebert, I think what would be really valuable going forward is with the implementation timeline, if we have kind of progress to, or as we're checking things off the list, since the board will meet monthly to review that, and things are going to move pretty quickly. So if we could just kind of show progress to plan, I think that would be very helpful going forward. And then if there are any limitations in our ability to follow through on that, I would appreciate just some board communication on that, as well as obviously for the community. Any other questions or comments?
Anthony,
I think just from a timing perspective, is it something new?
Anthony, we had his hand first.
I know that. Are you continuing on the same topic, or
Yes.
is it? Okay, Mr. Zenobia.
I just had a quick, kind of clarifying question. I know we said we were going to communicate with parents a couple of times in these first weeks. Is that communication, do you see that as a weekly communication going forward all the way into the spring, or is that even necessary? How often will we be sending letters out to parents about what is going on?
That's a fair question, Mr. Zenobia. Yeah, it won't be weekly, but we'll always probably have one coming out of a board meeting. That's been our regular cadence. And then, for example, like we talked about this month, we'll have one tomorrow, and then we'll have that one with much more detail either next week or the following week. So, yeah, we'll kind of time that out, and that'll always be part of our thinking. But right now, I think it's once or twice a month is probably our cadence.
Okay, thank you.
I think Mrs. Kozlowski would like to speak as well. And Mrs. Gren? Okay, Natalie, go ahead.
I just had something quick. Mr. Zenobia asked one of my questions already, but just to push this up to the forefront of this discussion, because a little time has lapsed, I just want to just have confirmation again. So the open enrollment is until the 30th of January. So it's not a first come, you don't have to put your application in first. It's the entire month. And then the second confirmation I just wanted to bring forefront again was we are looking at hopefully next week for our boundary maps to be completed from draft form to final. But at the latest, that week of, I think that's Christmas already.
Be the 22nd.
Second, yeah. So I just wanted to have confirmation of those two things since we've had some time lapse in between there.
Yes, that you're exactly right.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mrs. Kozlowski.
Thanks. I just wanted to highlight one of the things that Mrs. Voigt said, because I've been hearing this a little bit throughout, again, the community, which is the money. Money is obviously a factor in the nature of business, but to suggest that this board is somehow focused far more on the financial impact than we are the overall holistic view of these children is absurd. I don't think there's a single member that sits here on this board that doesn't believe deeply in the public education and what our primary focus is in this district, which is to educate these kids. Over the last 5 years, this board has dedicated endless hours, time, resources with the staff to implement over $8 million in state-of-the-art, robust curriculum that is done within every building and every classroom, near in unison. That was done with the intentionality that we are not curating things, and that no matter where children move within the district, and they do that on their own. Families choice in, they move, they go to different schools, that is not uncommon. To make it sound like somehow this decision was first and foremost to drive a financial bottom line is quite honestly crap. We have done so much effort to make sure that we are supporting our teachers. We have increased the base wages. We have done so many things with a focus on making this a destination district, taking care of our staff, and building the curriculum that wraps around our students so that they are successful in whatever that may be. These decisions are absolutely hard. But the ultimate focus for us has always been making sure that the programming and the efforts that we are dedicating to our students is spot on. That has never been not the focus. These decisions have to happen, and I've said it again, and everything starts with the number of students. I have students, I hire staffing to support the number of students, I build curriculum to support the staff and the students that I have, and the last step here is to focus our facilities around the number of students that I have. Making it something other than that is just wrong. Because we are passionate about the programming, we are passionate about our dual language program, we are passionate about our STEM charters and the charters that we have at South. This is what makes us a great district. making this decision, as hard as it is going to make us a better district that can do more for our staff and our students and their futures, period. That is what we're doing.
Okay, Mrs. White, back to you.
I feel that we can implement this plan, stage one, in a realistic manner, not necessarily everything all at once. And I would ask you to reconsider the phasing of the plan. We have a 2% declining enrollment problem this year. We have decreases in state funding because of various things. But we can reasonably phase in the changes to eventually get to the 19% reduction that's going to be involved here. Yet, when you talk about a long-range plan, normally it's assuming it's going to be 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 15 years. You know, I don't see implementation as being something that has to happen next year for everything. You know, as I suggested with the idea of the horning. Yes, we're going to get to that part of the plan, but not necessarily day one. You know, let's wait till we can get to the point that it would be a realistic level of availability for capacity at the middle schools. You know, it doesn't have to all happen on the first day of a long-range plan. We have a lot to be proud of. And as we listened over the summer, we heard that our community is very proud of our public schools. And many now are concerned that some of this fast decision-making is going to make people want to leave us, make people want to go to private schools. And the advertising out there right now, you know, to go to the alternative dual language programs, to go to the alternative programs are very, very prevalent. Waukesha values our neighborhood schools. And I fear that these decisions, taking away the neighborhood school at Bethesda, the neighborhood school at Hawthorne, and really the neighborhood school at Lowell with the repurposing. We're talking about wiping out 3 neighborhood schools when that's one of the things that our community said they really like, that they really love. We're very proud of our dual language program. But if we would just pause a year and let 4 programs to continue and sort of see how things can work out, maybe we could get by with 2 schools. You know, maybe it could be a Bethesda Banting, mix. But give it a chance to work through the process and see what the numbers are, et cetera. Before, I disagree that everything we've been talking about, people have heard about. The Lowell relocation was, I had not heard that before. That was going to be close these 2 schools and everybody in dual language was going to go to a school that has 1% of their population in ESL circumstances. Is that the best way to implement and build our dual language program? We all love our STEM program, and I'm so happy to hear that we're starting to do some marketing, because my concern is that it hasn't been happening as much as it needs to, that people realize about the amazing engineering academy and amazing medical academy at the health academy over at South, and so many more gyms that we have in the district. We can market all those programs, because at this point, because we are number 1 as far as our standing on the report cards, what's Waukesha doing right? And we are doing a tremendous amount of right things. We wouldn't be seeing the successes that we have if it wasn't the case. We are the best large school in the state. And after Dr. Siegert had gone to the national conference, the declining enrollment is a shared problem. This is the kind of thing that this is not unique to just us in any stroke of imagination to think that it isn't a shared problem. But how we're handling it can definitely be a model for listening to the community, doing what the community wants. And because of that, we know in Waukesha we have great public schools that exceed expectations, with great teachers that are dedicated to help all students learn. And that's with our growing population of special needs kids. That's a huge, huge statement. We can be very proud of Waukesha's formula for success, that indeed the $8 million investment and the things that Dr. Piasek outlined in her guest editorial, and the things that we've been able to try to share with the community in our recent newsletter publications. I would like that to be our legacy. Right now, I'm afraid that some of the things that we're doing by doing them so quickly, without community input, could hurt our enrollment. Could drive some of our families to find something that's more stable in a different, especially now as they're trying to decide. We heard about the not real sure if they're going to be able to have choice, at the last meeting, and we don't know how it's going to work out with all of this going on right now. That's one of our hallmarks, is to be able to give parents a choice. That's one of the things that is one of our keys to our success. I would like that to be our message to the community. What are we doing? What have we done? And what can we continue to do without dramatically closing the community school, neighborhood schools that they say they love and value? What can be done, to be able to make some changes, again, down the line? We have properties that we can sell for development, that as a phase one, to help us do the stopgap as far as.
Mrs. Voigt, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I have tried to be really generous with the time here, but okay, given that we are agendized to talk about an update to optimizing our future, I understand, and I think we've heard all of your points, but an action was taken with the expectation of implementation in the 26-27 school year. So unless there is a board member who voted in the affirmative on that action who would like to reconsider, I believe that we are moving forward. So some of the alternatives that you were talking about right now would be out of scope unless there's actually a modification or a board member who wishes to reconsider. And I'm not sensing that at this time, but I believe that that's the only way we can go about addressing some of the requests that you have.
I would like to propose that we do a phased-in implementation rather than an all-in-one.
I understand what you're asking, but I just
Have
given
an
the
administrative decision about how they want to.
it would not necessarily be an administrative decision because the action that was taken to implement the plan as presented was in the consideration of the packet, as Mr. Harlan pointed out, with the 26-27 implementation. And so, again, unless there is a board member who voted in the affirmative of that action that was taken last month, I don't believe that there is a modification to that implementation timeline that the administration would have the ability to do. Does anyone want to comment otherwise on that? Do you have other questions for the administration about the implementation or the update that they've provided?
Just that plea to pause for a year so we can work with the community to develop the details of a long-range plan, just by the nature of what a long-range plan is. And obviously, I don't have the votes to be able to do that when it's an 8-to-1 circumstance. But I believe that long-range plan being implemented over 5 years, 7 years, 10 years makes more sense than all in the first year. It's a way to do it right.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else want to speak on this topic before we move on? Okay, we're going to continue then. We'll move into the consent agenda, and I'm going to begin with the public gifts, which will be presented by Mr. Clark.
Yeah, we have 3 gifts tonight. Higher Elementary School received a washer and dryer valued at $1,600 from Lowe's. The Kenosha location to be utilized to launder clothes for students with special needs, extra clothing, and outdoor wear made, and have that available to students. Hadfield Elementary received $3,248.50 from St. Luke's Church to be used to provide extra educational experience for their students. And Waukesha West received $600 from Central Services, which is owned by West parent Scott Pyzik, to be used by the West Bowling Club to cover some of the season's bowlers and district fees.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. Your agenda includes various categories for approval, so if any board member wishes to have an item set aside for separate consideration, you will have that opportunity. There are no expulsions to consider. Policy 5310.01, emergency nursing services, is revised, correct?
replaced? 5310?
It's a, actually, it was on Mr. Pat's committee. No, it's a replacement.
It's replacement.
Policy, but it was an existing policy, so we put it in the consent agenda.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
Policy 9151, use of cameras and other recording devices in locker rooms is also revised. Thus, if any board member wishes to have an item set aside for separate consideration, please indicate so at this time. Okay, Mr. Zenobia, will you present the consent agenda for approval, please?
Yes, thank you. Earlier this evening, the Human Resources and Compensation Committee approved 4 resignations and 8 new or modified contracts. The information was provided in your packet, and an addendum was placed at your desk. I move that the consent agenda be approved as amended.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Koenig. Any questions? Okay, Mrs. Ettinger, would you take the roll call, please?
Carrie Kozlowski.
Aye.
David Wad.
Aye.
Betty Koenig.
Aye.
Eric Brooks.
Aye.
Diane Voigt.
Aye.
Natalie Gren.
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia.
Aye.
Thomas Harlan.
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye, passes 9-0. And now we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you, Dr. Piasek. We'll begin tonight with the overnight field trip report given by Deputy Superintendent Kennerman.
Good evening. We just have 2 to report tonight. Recently, the North field trip for the choir field trip to Iowa has been approved, and that will be for January. Also, Southeast Sports has a field trip or a overnight stay for December 5th through the 6th.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kennerman. Tonight, briefly, I just want to thank you as a board, as well as all of our stakeholders and our students, staff, and families for a successful 2025. Somehow, this is our last meeting of the year, and we'll get together again in 2026. So all the best to all of you for a wonderful holiday season, a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. That concludes my report, Dr. Piasek.
Thank you. Same to you and your family. All right, we will begin our committee reports tonight. First one is Finance and Facilities given by Mrs. Kozlowski.
The Finance and Facilities Committee met on Monday, December 8th. There were no action items on the agenda. There were 3 discussion or information items. The first item was the Student Nutrition and Airmark update. Representatives from Airmark attended the meeting to provide an update on the district's breakfast and lunch programs. They confirmed that all student nutrition operations continue to meet with full USDA requirements. Although total student meals served were down 0.94% year over year, they noted this compares favorably to the overall district enrollment decline of 3.22%. The second discussion item was the 2026-27 budget development. Mr. Clark reviewed the preliminary budget assumptions that will be used in the development of the annual long-range budget forecast that will be presented to the committee in January. The third discussion item was the monthly budget report. The committee received a fiscal update through November 30th. Revenues and expenditures remain within budget parameters for all funds. The next Finance and Facilities Committee meeting will be held on Monday, January 12th, 2026, at 5:30 p.m. in the boardroom. 2026, next year, whoo. Dr. Piasek, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Kozlowski. One thing I just wanted to comment from the F&F perspective is I just note when we're in a full operating, or in the operating school year, our monthly expenditures run about $11 million, and about $8 million of that is payroll. So I think that just further underscores that these are significant amounts, and anything that we can do to optimize what we're putting toward our people versus our operational overhead, I think is a great opportunity. Did you have anything else to add? Okay. Okay, the next committee report is Teaching and Learning, which would be given by Mrs. Koenig.
Thank you, Madam President. The last Teaching and Learning Committee meeting was held Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025 at 7 p.m. here in the boardroom. We have 2 discussion or information items on our agenda this evening. Our first discussion item is South's Continuous Improvement Data Story. As part of the strategic planning process, key performance indicators are the foundation for developing our strategic actions across the district. First, the district's strategic actions are designed. And then each school establishes its own aligned strategic actions. Our 2025-2026 district strategic actions were shared earlier this year. This report highlighted the strategic planning efforts that South High School has engaged in, resulting in increased student achievement. Here are a few points to celebrate. First, South High School earned an overall score of 70.0 on the State Accountability Report Card. This falls within the meets expectation category and is the highest score South has received since accountability report cards have been used. Within the South Report Card, growth data for all students in English language arts and mathematics is also a celebration, with most student groups demonstrating above average growth. While students who are part of the charter schools still attend classes at South, there are different state accountability report cards for Waukesha Academy of Health Professions, WAHP. This school fell within the exceeds expectations category with an overall score of 82.3. Waukesha Engineering Preparatory Academy had an overall score of 90.2, significantly exceeding expectations. The team shared the process used to analyze data, develop strategic actions, and monitor student success. Mrs. Diamato Cuche, principal of South High School, identified the next steps of their continuous improvement work. These next steps include a focus on balanced assessments, professional development, and strategic scheduling for special education students with a continuum of supports. Our second discussion item was the DPI accountability report cards. District and school accountability report cards are issued from the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. The purpose of school report cards is to inform the public about the district's or school's strengths and any areas for improvement. The 2024-2025 report cards went through a standard setting change process. As a result of this process, there are now updated reporting rating category changes. The 2024-2025 school report card is considered the new baseline. This presentation from Ms. Heinzel provided an overview of the recently released district and school accountability report card results. The 4 areas of each report card were highlighted. They are achievement, which is proficiency in English language arts, ELA, and mathematics; growth, year-to-year progress in ELA and mathematics achievement; targeted group outcomes, which are closing of achievement gaps; and on track to graduation, on track for post-secondary success. The district earned an overall score of 74.7 on the achievement performance level for English language arts and mathematics, and this was highlighted. In both subjects, the number of students in the developing and approaching performance levels reduced from the 2023 to 2024 school year to the 2024-25 school year. In addition, the percentage of students in the meeting and advanced performance levels in both subjects increased. The district's performance and growth is another celebration. The SDW score was the same or higher than 87.1% of the districts in the state. The district also has 60% of students who meet criteria for inclusion in at least one post-secondary prep course, advanced sources, dual enrollment, industry-recognized credentials, and work-based learning. District and school results were shared with families the day of the release. In addition, a press release was provided to media outlets and our website was updated. Madam President, that concludes the Teaching and Learning Committee report. Our next meeting will be held on Tuesday, January 6, 2026 at 7 p.m. here in the Blair Administration Boardroom.
Thank you, Mrs. Koenig. Any questions? Mr. Brooks.
Yeah, I just want to echo some of the sentiments that various members have said earlier about just how much of a celebration both of these items are, both South's successes and the things that they're working on, but also just the data points that we're seeing across the district, highest rated large size school district in the state of Wisconsin. I think that's something that we're all very proud of, and I think it reflects not just on the decisions made at this table and the investments that we're making in strong curriculum and strong teachers, but just the quality of work that our teachers, support staff, principals are putting in every single day, as well as the partnerships that our families have with those teachers to make sure that that magic is happening within the walls of our buildings. I think it's fair to say that if the folks at this board are truly trying to destroy public education in Waukesha, we're doing a very poor job of it based on the results of this. But I just am very grateful for all the progress that we're seeing, and I look forward to that momentum continuing.
Thank you. Mrs. Voigt?
I would definitely encourage the message about these successes, to be out there for the community. I think with a lot of the closure discussions, et cetera, we have lost sight of the amazing report card results and the amazing success at many of our schools in terms of their improvement. And I think that's truly a celebration that the community needs to know about. That has to be part of our marketing as you're putting it together, Jen.
Mr. Brooks?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the more that we can tell Waukesha's story, the stronger that story gets, and the more that people can look at us as truly a leader in what large size education looks like, right? We're never going to be Arrowhead or Elmbrook. We're a very different district than they are, but we're really a model for what large size education can look like. And yeah, I mean, it would be great to see more positive stories about that. Unfortunately, when some people send emails to the media saying that we didn't vote on something and spread misinformation purposely, that distracts from those positive stories.
Okay. We need to be professional here. And I think we can disagree in a professional way, which I'm going to attempt to do right now. I do take issue with the fact that we have lost sight of the great news of our report cards. I think we've actually spent quite a bit of time through our teaching and learning committee and our board meetings to celebrate our student performance, to celebrate the school level performance. I know that Ms. Hensel and Ms. Gennerman have spent countless hours analyzing that data and making it so that we can absorb it and understand it. I know that Dr. Siebert spent quite a bit of time with representatives of the Freeman so that we could have stories that were actually covering the positive of that. We've taken every opportunity that we've had and created many to celebrate that. I've seen the individual principals and school communities celebrate their report cards. So while we can always do more to highlight the things that we're doing that are positive, I do take a bit of issue with the notion that we perhaps have minimized that in the interest of the optimizing our future. I think it continues to be forefront in my mind in terms of what we want to continue to do. And I think Mrs. Kozlowski hit on it very well earlier, that a lot of the groundwork that we have laid to create the best possible set of curricular resources will allow us to continue on this positive trajectory, even with building changes. So I think that thanks to the administration and others who have put a lot of time and effort into getting that word out and celebrating that. So thank you for that. Mrs. Koenig.
I just want to add on to what you said, Dr. Piasek. I know fear is a very, very powerful emotion, and I think there's a lot of fear and anxiety, within the community, and it has definitely detracted from the successes we've had over these past, 4 years plus. And I challenge everyone to just, again, we have a proven track record now. We have for 3 to 4 years where we have been able to do some phenomenal things. And I just challenge everyone to take a pause and think and imagine what if next year isn't what we're afraid it's going to be, but what if it ends up being a really great year and the success continues. I think sometimes, when you let fear overtake you and you're fearful of what could happen, you need to look at what we've experienced the last 3 to 4 years and let yourself think and dream, what if this is going to just continue the momentum, and it is going to be, in the end, we're going to continue our successes. So I like to put my energy into that, vein, if you will. So just challenge everyone to just keep an open mind, because we have a very strong proven record right now, and as a district.
I appreciate that. And I think back to when we had to make the very difficult decision to close Whittier and merge that with Hadfield, we spent a lot of time talking about what we were going to do about the math curriculum. And that was because Whittier didn't have a math curriculum. And so the principals there had made a request that we move to Bridges. And as we worked through that, we worked all the way through getting to I-Ready at the district level. And now that we're facing similar kinds of decisions, we don't have to have the debate about what is the best math curriculum because we've got all of our kids on the same one. And the math outcomes and the reading outcomes have been exceptional, and that's what's driving the report card strength. So I think we're in a really good position. I think that's showing in terms of those school level report cards. So we can continue to celebrate that, but I think there's a lot already that's been said about that. Okay, anything else, Mrs. Koenig? Okay, thank you. The next committee is Student Services Committee, which should be given by Mr. Harland.
Thank you, Madam President. The Student Services Committee meeting was held on December 2nd, 2025. There were 2 action items and 1 discussion and information item on the agenda. The first action item was the approval of revisions to Policy 9151, use of cameras and other recording devices in locker rooms. This policy is updated to include additional language concerning media presence in locker rooms and the prohibition of recording devices. The revisions specify guidelines for media access in locker rooms and clarify options to prohibit the use of cell phones in any capacity within these spaces. The revisions to Policy 9151 was approved in committee and was also improved in tonight's consent agenda. The second action item is the approval of revisions to Policy 5310.01, Emergency Nursing and Services Plan. This policy is updated to more fully incorporate the requirements of administrative regulations regarding the development, content, and review of emergency nursing services. Adoption of these revisions is recommended to ensure compliant policies. The revisions for Policy 5310.01, Emergency Nursing Services, the plan were approved in the committee and also approved in tonight's consent agenda. Our discussion and information item was the enrollment and school choice information. Mr. Papp presented an update to the committee on the enrollment information and school choice dates due to the implementation of optimizing our future decisions that were made in November. The administration is reviewing the newly established attendance boundaries to determine which students will qualify for district transportation for the 2026-2027 school year. They're working carefully to ensure all eligibility decisions align with state requirements and district policy. Families will receive communication about their attendance area schools and busing eligibility in the coming weeks. The charter school enrollment and school choice application windows will be open from January 5th through January 30th, 2026. Families who are granted school choice at the elementary or middle school level will be required to reapply for school choice for the 2026-2027 school year. This ensures that placements are made fairly and consistently based on the updated attendance areas and each school's capacity. Reapplication does not apply to current elementary students enrolled in the district's dual language program. Current elementary students in our dual language program will receive separate communication from the district regarding their placement.
Mr. Brooks.
Yeah, I really appreciated, we saw this earlier in the Optimizing Our Future, just laying out what the different levels of priority are. I think that's something that has been a common question that I've heard from community members. So glad that that's out there. I know in committee, Mrs. Kozlowski brought up the idea of kind of like a decision tree. I think just the more that we can simplify the language and kind of like what decisions go where is going to be super helpful, because there are going to be a lot of families who this is the first time that they've ever had to interact with intra-district transfer choice, and it can be a little bit difficult to get a hang of it at first. So I think just the easier that we can make that accessible to our families, the better.
The Student Services Committee will meet again on Tuesday, January 6th at 6 p.m. And this completes the Student Services Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Harland. The next committee is the Policy and Government Relations Committee, which will be presented by Mr. Watt. I'm sorry, the next committee is the Human Resources and Compensation Committee, presented by Mr. Zenobia.
Thank you, Dr. Piasek. We had met earlier this evening, and we discussed an action item, which was the approval of the 26-27 calendar correction. This was a corrected version of the 26-27 school year calendar that properly counts the last day of November and includes a non-service day in February. There are no other changes to the approved calendar, so I move to approve the 26-27 school calendar correction.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Wad. Any questions about that? Okay, Mrs. Ettinger, would you take the roll call, please?
Anthony Zenobia.
Aye.
Eric Brooks.
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski.
Aye.
Thomas Harlan.
Aye.
Natalie Gren.
Aye.
Diane Voigt.
Aye.
Betty Koenig.
Aye.
David Wad.
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye, passes 9-0.
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Zenobia.
Thank you.
Now to Mr. Wad for the Policy and Government Relations Committee update.
Thank you, Mrs. President. The Policy and Government Relations Committee met on Monday, December 8th, 2025. Dr. Siebert summarized 5 policy technical corrections, including Policy 0141, number. The statute governing the number of school board members for a unified school district was added for reference. Policy 0145, board member anti-harassment. 1213, student supervision and welfare. And 5111.01, homeless students, had updates to policy title cross-references. And finally, policy 5113.02, intra-district safe school transfer options, had a technical correction to clarify that the department refers to the Department of Public Instruction, DPI. And also the word guardian was also removed because the term parents is inclusive of legal guardians as defined in policy 0100 definitions. Excuse me. Dr. Siebert also discussed 2 government relations items. First, he summarized a bill being circulated by Representative Dave Maxey regarding school funding and referendums. The bill would exclude costs funded by referenda from shared costs for the purpose of determining general equalization aids for school districts. Statewide, MPS received more aid in the 25-26 aid year as a result of their April 2024 referendum being included in aidable costs and an approximate $52.3 million increase. Meanwhile, 333 districts received less aid, and aid payments to 90 districts remained unchanged. The school district of Waukesha was among the districts most impacted and received approximately $2.1 million less in 25-26 due to that MPS referendum. The unfavorable impact of referendum on general equalization aid has been a recurring topic at our policy committee, and we are encouraged to see it being addressed by the state. So just to kind of tidy that up just a little bit. So this is where school districts, when they pass a referendum operating referendum above and beyond their revenue limit, they get additional state aid above it. And this is a bill we've talked about many times with our legislators when they've come in to meet with us, that districts should not be rewarded with tax money from other districts through state aid if they raise their expenses above their revenue limit. So we've been asking for a bill that would basically cut that off at the revenue limit, and this is a bill that does that. So I'm thrilled about it. I hope all of us are, and I hope that the legislature takes action on that quickly, and we get a signature from Governor Evers.
Mrs. Voigt?
As I did at our meeting earlier this week, I want to commend Mr. Wad for his efforts in this respect and for the initiatives of our administration to meet with legislators this summer and to present some of the concerns that we have about the budget process at the state level. And I really appreciate the leadership that we're showing in those areas.
All right, next, the State Assembly also approved a package of bills aimed at incentivizing school district consolidation. The measures give districts new tools to address long-term enrollment declines as Wisconsin's demographics are changing due to families having fewer children. Another bill looks to create grants for school districts that hold consolidation studies. And I think it's important to point out that this is more about the consolidation of school districts with each other as opposed to consolidations within a particular school district like we've recently gone through. So I don't know if anyone wants more clarification on that, but this is just another indication, right, of the challenges that school districts are facing all over the state as a result of our declining enrollments. All right, Dr. Piasek, this concludes my report. The next Policy and Government Relations Committee meeting is scheduled for January 12th, 2026 at 7 p.m. here in the boardroom.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our committee reports for the evening. So moving to other business, would there be any recommendations for topics for future board meetings? Seeing none, we do have a need to adjourn to a closed session this evening, and we will not be returning from closed session. So I would be looking for someone to read motions B and C, or items B and C. Mr. Harland.
I move to adjourn to executive session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85, parent 1, parent E, for deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, sale of district property. Also, executive or adjourn to executive session per Wisconsin statutes 19.85, parent 1, parent F, to consider financial, medical, social, or personal histories of disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personal problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data, or involved in such problems or investigations, specifically to consider a complaint under School Board Policy 9130.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Brooks. And we will need a roll call. Mrs. Ettinger.
Thomas Harlan.
Aye.
Diane Voigt.
Aye.
Betty Koenig.
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia.
Aye.
David Wad.
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski.
Aye.
Natalie Gren.
Aye.
Eric Brooks.
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye, passes 9-0. So we will adjourn to executive session. Our next meeting is here in the boardroom in the year of 2026, January 14th, Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. We're adjourned.